We have a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the agenda as written with the add-ons of the pier and a discussion about rec department.
Yeah, Armstrong and the rec department, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, my name is Andrew Boyle, chairing a board, the Friends of the Scituate Dog Park. With me is Adrian.
Hi, Adrian Rose, of the Scituate Dog Park.
What we're here today to discuss, sort of informally with the committee, first to let you know that we are heading a citizens group that is committed to bringing a dog park to Scituate. Our main focus is to bring this as a low to no cost option to the taxpayers in order to enhance the town and the facilities that are available to dog owners and the like. Specifically, what we wanted to find out from the committee is your feelings in particular when it comes to the existence of the park, and then ask for any recommendations that you might have in terms of locations.
A few years ago, Kim Scituate, and at that point in time, we had told her to look in down the Driftway, right next to the sewer treatment plant. There's an open area there. That is not conservation land. I think it's actually DPW. It's like they were going to have a tree farm there at one point. But when you drive by, just before you get to the
Yeah, right where the little
sewer
hill is?
treatment, yeah, when it goes down, there's a clear area in there, and we had mentioned that to her, but then we never heard anything back. And then I should probably let Frank, I think Frank has the best idea near the fire station and
Well, was
stuff.
another consideration.
Yeah, well, he's just asking for ideas.
Yeah, we're open. I mean, at this point, we've narrowed our search down to, we're committed to using an area that's currently open.
Yeah.
We're not looking to fell any treed land. Some of the Board of Selectmen members had mentioned, an availability of land in the west end, but that's tree-filled, so we're not looking to, knock down and de-tree, an entire area, or deforest an entire area. We are looking for open space that is going to be town-owned. We're not looking for any type of grant or anything from that type of land. It would just be a usage-based grant from the town that just, opens it up for that particular type of usage. So we're in the exploratory phase right now. I will mention that the Anthill area, that open area on the Driftway, has come up.
Which area?
Near what they call Anthill, I guess.
Oh, the first area by the parking lot?
That was sort of the reason that the other
Yeah,
Driftway
go ahead.
area was brought up was because they asked first about that.
Sure.
And we just felt like that's been a good recreation spot for people doing all kinds of things, and it probably wouldn't lend itself to being fenced in and used primarily for dogs. You'll see a lot of families that picnic there or whatever, and they're using that field for, football or frisbee or something like that, so.
So I don't know where that other one is.
Well, if you go more towards the, where
The sewer
they're dumping
treatment.
the leaves
Yep.
and all that sort of stuff in the windmill.
It's right down
Just
there.
before that, the town had a small nursery area. There's still some trees that are planted. Some of it's grown in, but it's grassed and well vegetated. The problem is you'd be parking probably at the Driftway and then walking up the bike path
trails,
to
yeah.
get to that. So the parking is a little limited at that site.
Yeah, that's what we're sort of running into. And as we said, we don't want to, we're ideally not looking for a site either that we would have to pave. I mean, we don't want to add any asphalt
Right.
in terms of, the area.
So the other day it came to me, we have just started the safety building. And they had to clear an area on the other side of Man Lot for the septic system. So it's I don't know how big that area is, but it's fairly decent in size. It's pretty much adjacent to the dog shelter.
Okay, yep, on the other side of the...
And people are already walking their dogs through that pathway to get into the Ellis property. So I don't know whether it's sufficient in size.
Oh, we certainly take a look at it. As I said, we're just in an exploratory phase
Yeah.
right now, where we're trying to look at all options.
Right. And then And then I thought even a larger site, but I don't know, this is something you'd have to discuss with police and fire, but to the left of the safety building, there's a fairly large area that they cleared for supposed, for a helicopter landing
Oh, the
site.
pad, yeah.
And it's supposed to be fairly level. I mean, obviously, we're
As long
not
as the
going to
dogs
land.
can move fast.
Yeah.
But if you look at that site, it's a grassed area, it's supposed to be kept mowed. There's plenty of parking at that safety building site.
This is on 3A, this is the
It's on 3A.
Where they just cleared.
okay.
It's not our jurisdiction. Ellis is used a lot by dog walkers because it's convenient to the animal shelter.
Sure, yep.
So, those are,
But Ellis, is that piece ours? The piece beside Ellis?
no, I
No,
think,
it's not.
I think either one would have to be up to the police and fire.
Police and fire.
But it might be something to consider.
Now, specifically on that anthill property, that open space, that grassed-in space, that is conservation?
It is.
Yes.
But the former tree farm area,
I believe that was DPW.
DPW, okay.
I don't know whether some of that's been relinquished or not, but it was Parks Department, and they were using it as a nursery.
gotcha.
So, but I think we've looked at that area before. We've had some wetlands delineation there and things. I think it would be usable. Again, it just, we sort of developed the walking path. We have the parking area, the small park at the Driftway, and just felt that open area was already used by, it would be hard to make that used for both, was our thought when that was proposed.
Okay.
I mean, speaking for myself, but I
Yeah.
know that at least 4 of us are dog owners, so big proponents of seeing this happen. And if you need some help liaising with the DPW or police or whoever, be happy to help you out. I'm the liaison on the beach committee, and one of the biggest complaints is dogs on the beach. So having an alternative, I think, is a great idea. So
Yeah.
whatever, I can do to help, you can get my contact information from Carol or whatever.
If I could just sort of share the scope of what we're looking at, so you have a little bit of a visual. Ideally, we'd like to have about 2 acres, because we want to be able to have 2 parks, one for a large dogs and one for small dogs. And then the medium dogs, the owners would have to decide which is most suitable for that dog's personality. And in about 2 acres, we could work with perhaps 3/4 of an acre to an acre for the large dog park, and then a smaller one, maybe 1/4 to 1/2 an acre for the small dogs. And for that reason, I think you're going to find that there could be at times, it could be 15 or 20 dogs at a time. And also the convenience of parking, because I'd like to see this utilized by people who have disabilities and for seniors. And that can encompass a lot of people. How many people have bad hips, bad knees, and can't walk their dog, but this is their opportunity to have a social time on a bench in a safe enclosed area where they could just drive to and get out and walk a few steps for their animals.
And I think one of the biggest things that we're looking at, and one of the expected oppositions to bringing the park to fruition is the problem of NIMBY, is that we don't want to locate this in any particular area that's going to be residentially adjacent, because that creates a noise or a crowd issue. So the number of sites that could potentially work dwindles once you start to factor in a lot of what could potentially create opposition. So as we try to work within the confines of what everybody's looking for, I think ideally it is going to be a piece of property that, is either unutilized or not utilized to its full potential, and that can be, created with the least amount of impact to that surrounding area. One of the reasons why the Driftway site even came up initially was because that a lot of the people in our group are dog owners and people that walk their dogs, and they utilize that space for that. So that's one of the reasons we said, obviously we'd come and talk to you guys and get a sense of what your feelings are on it, so.
I should keep working my way over.
Well, no, but it sounds like the new Public Safety Center is ripe with potential, theoretically.
Lisa?
I think it sounds like a great idea, and just hopefully we can find the right location.
I don't think we can put it on homework.
What?
I don't think we can put it in Humrock.
That unless they're retrievers and swimming.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't think there's enough
it's a
open
public
space there.
process, obviously want to see how people use what, and as you point out, there's always some conflict. Like I say, that one at the Driftway was floated before, when you drive by it, it looks great, but it also looks great for a number of things, and whether those things can function together. I tend to wonder. I'm assuming, I think when Kim Stewart talked about this, the area would be fenced in,
Yep.
and that sort of thing.
Fenced in, double gated.
Sure.
Protect, obviously, the dogs from impacting anybody else outside of that area.
Right.
And again, we look at that spot, also with the trails, the walking trails, that it opens up into a large area back where I think there's a lot of decoration of the trees,
Right.
Christmas trees, and that sort of area out to the windmill area. I think we're really putting, as I said, a lot of stuff on the table just to see, again, get people's feedback. What we don't want is to select a site without consulting everybody in the process first, and then try to bring it to whomever to have somebody say, well, nobody ever ran this by us, that's,
Well, it's town property, and so the majority of people or whatever should have the opportunity to
Absolutely.
request that. I mean, we're supposed to maintain that property and take care of it, and we try to make it usable for lots of different folks for different purposes. And certainly dog owners are a big part of that, and the golf course becomes off limits in the summer, the beaches become off limits during the day.
Sure.
And then there's the business now with coyotes. People are concerned about walking their dogs, especially small dogs,
Know what it
not in a
is.
confined area. So I certainly can appreciate all the different issues that you have. And I think we're both talking about something similar. The Ellis property's been used a lot for that because of the proximity to the shelter already.
Sure.
There may be some opposition. I know that back when the shelter was going in, there was some people concerned about the noise and all of that. But there's almost two sites at the safety building. Now, the police and fire might say, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't
right,
work.
and to be honest with you, we haven't this is our first sort of
Sure.
venture into,
We don't have we don't have that plan out in this space right now. But maybe Pat or Carol or somebody
Yep.
at Town Hall could help you with that, because...
Yeah, absolutely. We've been working with Al Banger. We've been working with Kim, obviously, Kim Stewart, very closely. So we'll reach out to the liaisons in the public safety arena and who's
There's
doing
two-
planning there.
very separate areas
Mm-hmm.
in that the location where the septic is placed is smaller, which might be the small dog piece, although someone's going to have to walk across the street. But there's already going to be some sort of crosswalk there for the people that come across from the shelter. And then the larger area, I assume, would be to the left of the safety building where they have a landing area proposed. And I'm just throwing it out
Sure.
there.
No,
They
absolutely.
may have another set of concerns that
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's why I wanted to, as I said, that's why we wanted to, get everybody's input and say,
Sure.
specifically, we're not tied to any
Yeah.
one idea. It's important that we, address all those concerns and look at all those logistics first before, as I said, deciding on a particular place, because at that point, you're sort of married to a spot where now it's just, you're going to be attacked on all
Sure.
sides from the opposition. We're looking to build a consensus rather than to just plant a flag, so.
Yeah. We also have some dune area that's really adjacent to that might be protected a little bit differently, in terms of an environmental concern.
Sure.
Where that park, where the grassed area is right now. As soon as you go over that hill, it's like a dune grass kind of area, which, I don't know, Pat and Pat would have to take a look at that and see what sort of resource. I know that we've talked about this before, like what could be developed in those areas, so.
We're on the road next week down that area, so.
Yeah, go by there, yeah.
Do you have any input, Pat?
No, I think it's good to suggest different options around the town.
Steve, you,
The old Stockbridge Road dump site.
Yep, we looked,
Acres, and it's in the woods and it abuts the train, and there's There's no residential really around it, wouldn't bother anybody.
Is it pretty flat out there?
It's a dump site, so they...
Yeah, but I don't
I
remember-
haven't seen it myself personally.
Oh,
I
see,
know it's a-
and I haven't
It was a
either.
big open area, and it was capped off, right?
Huh.
Yeah, some stuff has grown over in there.
It's probably pretty overgrown.
Yeah, and there's some drainage issues as well. It tends to sort of flood over. But we're not ruling that out either.
Yeah.
We're not ruling
But it is a
anything out.
good-sized area, and if it were cleared,
Which is what the animal shelter, I think, had initially looked at as well. I think that was the area that they initially looked at, so that's something that's...
there's a road that goes in there.
There's no building there, you just need to put a fence up.
Yeah.
So,
Probably, I bet by now, there's probably 30-foot tall trees in there, but...
Places to go to
it wouldn't matter if it went...
But yeah, no, thank you.
And a question maybe for you, and I realize, there's people that are responsible with their dogs, and there's people that are irresponsible. One of probably the toughest problems we have with our walkways and things, especially in the driftway, is people not taking the time to clean up or leaving
The bags.
stuff behind, which is really a shame. And I mean, you're being here tonight, I'm sure you're extremely responsible with your pets, but
Yeah,
and it's
that's definitely
it's a
an
battle
issue that's
that we
come up.
fight.
Absolutely. And it's one we've seen, in other dog parks as well. And I think doing the research into a lot of the more recently developed parks has given us an insight into how to handle those aspects of waste management. And it's obviously something we would work with the DPW and the facilities maintenance people that would be heading up that removal process to say, how do we make this work? How does it work currently at Widows? What is working right now, what isn't, and sort of learn from that. And I think that'll be a concern that we can minimize in terms of...
Kim came to the Beach Commission meeting last week, and she is stewarding a fund she's asked us to fund a whole new signage and bags disposal. So I think that's well underway.
The places that I'm familiar with that have worked very, very well, they have you go into the park and there are multiple receptacles for bags and multiple disposal areas, not just one, not just when you're coming in and going out, but they're throughout each park. And so this is an enclosed area. And I'm not going to say everybody is 100% compliant, but if you're not, what's happened is the people that are there will frown upon it and they'll go up to you and say, you can't do that or we won't let you back in again. So there are ways to self-police, and we will have, of course, posted rules. And there's plenty of very successful parks that are working out there, but it's all about the availability of the bags and the receptacles at the same time. Because as we all know, when we walk out at Widows Walk, people bring their bags, they just don't bring them back to the parking lot.
Well, that's-
You just see the
that's a
bags
problem.
everywhere. I know. But that's not gonna happen in a small,
That's not
1
picking
acre
up
area.
that animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really not. And as Adrian mentioned, we're looking into funding mechanisms outside of the town organization, outside of town money, setting up a 501c3, using grant money from the Stanton Foundation and other areas to make sure that those issues are properly funded and properly planned for in advance.
Right.
Get DPW is going to be a challenge in terms of doing that, so, yeah.
Well, we're open to talking about it.
Great. Yep,
Okay.
that's what we're looking for.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Let us know. All
Thank you very
right, take
much.
care, thanks a lot.
Appreciate your time.
Sir, Mrs. Hassett.
This is the emails on that.
Good evening. I'm not sure if everybody understands, this, Mr. and Mrs. Hassett live adjacent to a project, or a couple of projects that have come before the commission recently at Orchard Road. It was the Fippen estate that was conditioned for development, and then there's also a project above their house at,
Jim Curtis.
right, and it's, they have a wetlands area that we had reviewed, and that part of the part of our orders of conditions and the stormwater piece. And now that wetlands the water has extremely elevated to a point where it's flooded their backyard. So maybe you want to...
Yeah, we saw pictures of that last week, right, yeah.
Thank you. I'm Jim and Cheryl Hassett, 1 Orchard Road. That's basically a summary of it. We, were involved when these projects were first going on, and we addressed our concerns, and the concerns we had have actually happened now, as far as the water runoff, on our property now. With our sump pumps running constantly, now we've got problems in the basement, so there's a big water problem there. We had some pictures that we sent around. I don't know if the board members saw it.
And that water actually is probably 5 to 6 feet closer to our house than when those pictures were taken when Pat was down
Right.
on Thursday evening.
And I know Frank's been involved, and everyone's been really quick to respond to our issues,
Well,
but...
not quick enough when there's water in your basement.
No,
Right,
we have
right.
4 full-time sump pumps now that are going around the clock, and we're blowing out electrical fuses, just trying to keep the water out of our home.
Yeah.
Sure.
Never
So
mind the
we're trying to get a
backyard.
resolution to it, and, I don't want to be addressing this year after year. I know that there's construction going on now, there's a lot of clearing, and there's more water than probably there will be once, some plantings are put back, but, I'm really looking for the board to take a position, that we halt these projects and really look at it again. I mean, there is a big issue there, and I really don't think it's been addressed correctly. And that's what I'm asking the board tonight, to look at it and have the engineer, Morse Engineering, come in. They're running both projects, and I would think that, it needs to be looked at again and addressed.
We're already thousands of dollars into damage, and something has to be done.
Okay. Penny?
I've been out there, and it's really sad to see the backyard. I'm not sure myself whether it's runoff. I've been told there's a pipe that could have been damaged when a gas line was put in, but I feel very strongly that it has to be solved tomorrow, if not the next day. It can't continue on. I was also told that the stormwater management, it isn't all, everything hasn't been completed on that yet. Well, the problem is, it's got to stop. We haven't had a bad rainstorm.
Right.
We haven't had a bad winter. And if we get some rain this spring, if this isn't solved...
If we get some rain this week, we're going to have it going right in the door. I mean,
Exactly.
that's where it's at now.
I mean, I feel the wetlands next to you, that's flooding over now, and that shouldn't be. So there's something very wrong there. I don't know what it is. I'm nervous that that house that's built, that the building department will give them an occupancy permit, and they're out the door, and these people are left with a mess. I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's the Fiffin property or this 174 Branch Street, the new house. But I feel as though it has to be addressed, not tomorrow, today. They have to find out what is causing the flooding out there. Because to me, it doesn't seem right that it's groundwater, because we haven't had any water come from the skies. So something's wrong that's flooding their yard and the wetland.
We've been there 9 years, and we've
Yeah.
never, ever had
Well,
anything like
I was shocked when, I saw the pictures, and then I went there Monday, and I'm there, holy Toledo, your chicken coop's gonna fly.
What do we have for orders of condition? First of all, is it the same developer, or is it two
No.
different developers?
No, it's all.
Okay.
We have stormwater permits on both projects. There was no, we have erosion controls up, and there's no overland flow of water beyond the erosion control. So the erosion controls seem to be working well. And until the stormwater structures are built, you don't know how good it's going to do long-term. But if all those trees are down, there could be extra water getting into the swamp. And we start with the first thing, maybe if there's a clogged pipe, if that would solve the problem. I think that was the first approach.
But isn't part of the orders of conditions that they contain the water on site, and that's not happening,
It is,
right?
No, I
we're
think-
not sure. If
We don't know where it's coming from.
Right, if it's a wetland that just isn't getting drained the way it's supposed to, because...
And the construction is incidental?
I don't know, the gas line that went in there, one theory is that they broke the pipe that drained this wetland into the storm drain. And they tried to snake it through, and they said it was hitting something, they believe it was the gas line. So if it's still blocked, maybe,
When did that happen?
Well, we had this, a little bit of a conversation
Oh.
before the meeting, that I was delayed.
Yes, I know. And now we can talk about it together.
Family squabble.
Keep going.
Well, let's work
Oh, all right.
through the process here.
Go ahead.
Lisa?
I agree. I think we need to get to the root of this. We need to, something needs to be initiated right away to try to do some discovery to figure out where this water is coming from. If it is something damaged,
Is there any, and I'm using terms that I'm not sure I totally understand, but is there any way in the short-term interim that the area could be de-watered?
it started that, they're running pumps from the wetland area across the street down into the storm drain. And I think Kevin and Mike Green were setting that up today. I don't know if that's just to maintain the level it is now, or will it actually lower it or not. It may not be enough soon enough, but that's what they are trying to do.
Did they pump today?
Yeah,
They did, yeah.
They are, they're in the
Did it
process.
seem to,
Nah, not, I
Mike
mean,
Breen said at the rate that the pump can work, it's going to take days, if not a week or two.
and that is just a Band-Aid, right? I mean, that's
sure,
just-
no, I know.
His
It's-
proposal was a solution, just to try
Yeah,
to...
he said you can't even figure out where it's coming from or what the issue is.
Till the water gets
water's
down.
out of there.
Right. And the other difficulty is if you do release that water all of a sudden, where's it gonna go? And what other damage
Right.
is gonna happen?
But
You
in the
know,
meantime, they have-
We're all agreed on that.
I mean, I understood, when I saw the pictures, I saw the magnitude of the
Yeah.
issue, that, I mean, Mike Breen been talking to Pat, Mike was right there, I mean, they sent a backhoe out, they pulled out a piece of pipe, trying to find the end of the pipe, but it's 3 feet underwater in muck and
Now,
mire.
I have a question, Frank.
Sure.
When this was being addressed originally, was that pipe ever brought into the conversation? I mean, you would think,
The pipe was,
engineering, that would be part of the,
the pipe was there. I mean, Pat, because we were evaluating that wetland to see if it was a vernal pool, actually. It was a day that
remember
Pat,
that, yep.
we were at,
Greenwald.
no,
Yes, I was.
we were with Lucas Environmental at the Toll Brothers site, and we had some time, so when we left the Toll Brothers site, we came to the Fippen site, and you and Tom Liddy and I were in waders and walked around the edge of that pond, and one of the issues of there being a vernal pool was is there an inlet and an outlet? So we located that pipe, which was working, or it seemed to be. I mean, it's hard to say, it wasn't draining much, but the thing with a pipe that clogs, being in this business for a long time, is that these things don't just usually stop at once. Over time, they don't get maintained. Who installed that pipe, as I said to you, there's no plan or any record in the DPW's office. The DPW typically has road layouts, they have plans that tell you how big the drain pipes are, where the catch basins are, but they're not the most accurate. We just had a problem down on Dreamwald Road, or Lawson Road, where the water line was way in another place than they had planned on. So unfortunately, these things aren't that accurate. I think Jeff Cheshire from the DPW Engineering Department had also looked at it, because he and I discussed like where this water was going to go, and at the end of Dreamwald Road, there's an area that's flooded. I think that people either have beavers or hockey players, because there's a big area that's also flooded behind a bunch of houses, but then if you look further down, the wetlands are dry. As you get more down towards where the area where Renendi's cut into that wetland's dry. I mean, it's not flowing much at all, which leads you to believe that there's some...
so it is common for wetlands to drain into the town drainage system? That's what I was...
In places where it's becomes a problem, or has been a problem, I mean, there's almost like a berm built there, where that is higher than...
Right.
Than the road, and so someone put a pipe into that to solve a problem years ago, but it wasn't, like today, we'd build, you asked me about a head wall, So if an area were constructed today with like a detention pond and drainage, there'd be a wall and the pipe would go there. So hopefully sediment and all those things wouldn't build up and fill that pipe.
Right.
Yeah.
In
Mike
this
Reed
case-
did tell me today that he had a discussion very early on with Morse Engineering before any of these projects started and said, I think this is going to be an issue in the future. I would recommend a head wall.
Do we have anything?
It wasn't part of the permit, I know that.
Right.
We might have had a discussion about it, but,
So, I mean, we don't want to run this thing around and around, and you don't want to either. And I think Mike was contacting the gas company to get them out there.
Right.
You know, if they dig this thing up and they found that they mashed that pipe, as far as I'm concerned, they're the biggest culprit
Right.
in this problem. It's not to say that other problems, and I think, unfortunately, when sites go into construction, earth gets disturbed.
Right.
They're like a sponge, you know, compared to, we know this, when things are vegetated and there's trees and grass and everything, the water absorbs slowly. When everything's disturbed and there's areas like that, then the water can go in much quicker.
Right.
And some of it may raise the water level or affect someone around there. There's an area that the contractor built just down from this area, a depression, and the intention of that is to take water that's running from that site, and it seems like it had worked to some degree, that detention area that's just below that ponding area. I mean, I don't know whether they could actually dig a trench into that and,
a temporary basin type
yeah,
of thing.
and pull that water from,
Yeah, because...
if they can't find the pipe, then,
Yeah, when we talked to Greg Morse about this, he responded right away and said, you know, what can we do to work on this? And then Public Works went down there and thought maybe we could snake the pipe and it would work. But maybe we should talk to Greg about it. Would a temporary basin keep the, at least...
If they could-
Get it any higher,
if they had to trench, I mean, if they could trench from that basin to that other one and relieve some of that water and
Outside
then,
the driveway.
Yeah.
What we'd like to ask the board tonight is to put a cease and desist on all building right now. That will make this Morse's and the town and everybody else #1 concern like it is for us. And the minute that it gets resolved and we figure it out, and I would like them to look again, should we consider now putting a head wall in? Does that plan need to be relooked at? But I think the only way to get this resolved right now so that my house isn't underwater and there's no more damage is to stop everything. If they find a solution tomorrow and the water level goes down tomorrow, let them continue to build. But what they're gonna do is build as fast as they can, get out of there, and now we're stuck. Our house is absolutely being ruined. Never mind our lawn and our gardens, those are gone. It's now in our home. I had Dana Richards out, the electrician, to say, can you help us here? And he's like, you're gonna have to put a new electrical panel in, this is a mess. We can't.
did the
keep up."
electrical panel go underwater?
No, because of trying to add more sump pumps.
Oh, I see, okay.
He said, you know, what we have now, that's why
We're
we're
maxed
blowing
out as
fuses.
far
We're
as
maxed
adding
out.
Capacity,
some pumps in
okay.
there, right. We'd have to get them out to redo it, to
Well,
add
4
a couple
pumps is unreal, yeah, no, I get it, okay.
So I really think that this is emergency for us, and we would really appreciate the cease and desist until we can figure this out on both projects.
You know, I think if there were something we could point to and say, there's the cause, we need to get this resolved, and we're gonna cease and desist until you do it. At this point, we don't know. It could be a gas company thing, so it would be...
But it never had a problem in
Yeah.
9 years, and the only
Yeah,
common
and
denominator
I-
is the construction on both projects.
I know the gas company keeps getting brought up, but I know the gas only went down to the Callian's house there. I don't believe Mrs. Fippin's property there was gas going up that far. I mean, I think it
What
only
about the
went...
new development down...
No, I think if you look at it, I know because we put gas in at the same time, the Callians came over and said, geez, they're putting gas in, I'll run a line down. So they ran a line down to that first house on the left-hand side. But I don't think it goes any further, so I know Mike Breen had said that with the gas company, but I'd be very surprised if it's gas company related myself.
Oh, so it isn't a new thing with the gas?
No, it is a new, there's a brand-new gas excavation.
Oh, all right.
And it goes right beyond
A year
that.
ago.
Well,
Yeah.
that's, I asked my text to Mike was, do we know when the gas company did that work? Maybe
It was
we'll...
certainly prior to the developments being looked at. I
Definitely,
Yeah.
because we had
Because we
gas
did it at
brought
the
to our
same time.
house.
Okay.
But
Well,
you had all the
but
trees,
then there's
too.
also, I think there's also a gas line that was expanded for those houses. I don't know for certain.
I don't know if it's true
Yeah,
either.
but I'm just looking, I mean, I've been on the site, right at the catch basin is a shut-off. It's all marked in yellow, which is gas.
Right.
And it's beyond the catch basin. And when Mike and I were standing there looking at it, we looked at two things that we felt could have impacted the drain pipes that come from that drainage: the gas line and the installation of water services on the other side of the road. So either there's another pipe that was hit on that side that was damaged, or it's on the side of the road. Mike was there today with a snake, a large truck, to try to ream that pipe.
Right.
And they got just in maybe a foot and a half, and the thing hit something and came out of the road, and Mike's text to me was, it's at the gas line. So I hear what you're saying. I'm not so sure that stopping the people from grading and doing all that stuff would be beneficial to you. We have to issue a certificate of compliance before they can sell those houses. And we don't have to issue that certificate of compliance until this issue's resolved, so they can't sell it. I'm not so sure that stopping them from doing grading and straightening out that site would be in your best interest. I think if they were making the site worse, that would be a problem. But I'm not so sure that just stop, I understand what you're saying, is if they grind to a halt, then everybody's gonna be, be a Chinese fire drill. And we want something to happen. I think.
It has to.
I understand that, but I think that unfortunately, there's a few entities. Certainly, I know you're frustrated with Morse. They looked at the piece, but to their due, they came right out. They got a plan, they came out, they met on the site. To throw them under the bus entirely, I think would be
No,
maybe a little.
I'm trying to,
No,
we asked for the
I get it. I think we understand.
Is it possible to stake where the water is day by day? Like, today they started pumping. Could you put a stake where the water line comes into your yard? And we'll see if it's having any impact. Maybe in a day or so it's retreated.
I can tell you visually, because you can see
No,
it.
it's bad.
Right.
I think.
Just to see if this is working.
Pat,
even at all.
I think if Mike can pump it down, which would alleviate some of your problem, the second problem that's going to happen is if there's hundreds of thousands of gallons of water that are going to be released whenever it gets cleared. And so if you're digging a trench and trying to fix that, and all of a sudden you hit that pipe and you release that, then you've got another whole mess on your hands trying to do something with the water. Yeah, it's going to whip out of your backyard and out of the pond, but then it's going to wash out the road or hurt somebody.
And we're looking for a long-term remedy. I
Right.
don't want a Band-Aid just so the lawn
No,
looks
and we-
good. I mean, that's why we're here, right? I mean,
Question, Pat, we conditioned that project for Susan Pippin's estate. Is that?
Right, it's 3 lots that we were,
And then there's also the other piece that's up off of Branch that could be adding to this
Right.
piece as well. Ultimately, part of the issue is going to be who's going to take care of fixing this? And there's costs involved in doing all this sort of thing. Do the orders of condition pass on to the present owner of the Pippin piece? Is that how that works?
I mean, you guys did deal with these, it passes from the developer to the buyer of the home. It does. But, the other question was there another pipe coming off of Branch Street that contributed to this, body of water to the, as you're facing the new house on Branch, to the left of that, is there another pipe coming in that contributes to this? So, I mean, there could be other sources.
Did you think there was a drain pipe on that side?
We were just talking about
It could be.
Steve?
Yeah, I'll just comment a little bit, just as a developer in the area. I'm familiar with this project because I looked at purchasing it, and frankly, we were actually out there with you in that pond. And my partner and I actually tried to snake that pipe as well because the pond was coming up some. And this was a number of months ago, obviously. But the pipe definitely does leave the pond. It's clogged solid, and it probably did happen over time. But as far as, if there's 100,000 gallons that's out there in this ponding area now, it couldn't come just from these sites where they're doing the development. We haven't had enough rain. I mean, if we got a 100-year storm event, and all of a sudden the whole thing was filling up, then you're producing enough water from there. But I think Frank had it right. There's a lot of different things that are happening in that area. They're doing a lot of work, it's not Branch Street, Curtis. Town's been doing a whole lot of work on Curtis, and I don't know if it's a new water main out there or what they're doing, but there's been a lot of digging upstream from where this ponding area is. My suggestion is to definitely have Mike Green keep going and digging that pipe up to find out where it is.
Just, we should
And not
ask,
slowly if he has to.
do we know, would it be worth talking to Jim DeBarros and just see whether they've noticed an increase in water flow? I mean, we've seen problems where the water problem turned out to be a broken main, and it showed up.
That's kind of my point.
Can I clarify something? Can they transfer the title without satisfying the OCs?
The order of condition goes with the property, and it's up to the lawyer to catch it at a passing,
And we've seen
But
too many times
The
that
house
they don't
gets built,
catch
it's
it.
3 years, the
Well,
order.
not even catch it, Penny, when, like, you can condition a project and then move it on. People will buy stuff
Yep.
with a conditioned
Yeah, that
project.
was the question.
Because
Yeah.
they're gonna develop it.
No, I understand that, but when they go to sell it to a homeowner, it might not be caught by the lawyer. We have seen that happen.
Most times today,
I don't know.
so if we don't issue an order, we won't order it. I think we can say tonight
Yeah, no.
that we're not gonna issue any orders or conditions,
That's a safe one.
certificate of compliance on Branch Street, anything abutting this property that could have an adverse effect. We're not going to issue that. But that could be, I mean, they're just building those houses. They might not be looking for that for 3 months. That's not what you want.
Are the developers contending that it does not have anything to do with it?
Of course they are.
They are, okay. I just wanted to
I mean-
establish that. Well, I
Well, it's
just wanted
always-
to make sure of
It's
that.
always somebody
Yeah,
doing this.
sure, okay.
But, I think the town has stepped up, the commission certainly stepped up, and we got to figure out where that is, and find both a short-term and a long-term solution to this problem. And it could be that it's going to circle around, it's going to get deeper before it gets, not the water, the situation. If something needs to be constructed to make sure that that doesn't continue, who's going to be responsible for that? And that's what Mike's looking at. It's like, he's got some time and effort spent here. If we have to replace, or the town has to replace piping or whatever in the street, who's going to be responsible for that? Obviously, it's not you.
Well, Frank, is there a way that with the town, if there's a leak in the water pipe, by looking at the
They should know that.
pressure or the volume of water
Yeah.
used, would,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a quick start, that's something they
Well, that's what I
can check
just said to
immediately, right?
Pat. We can check with Jim DeBarros tomorrow morning, and he's the head of the water department.
Pat, I'm assuming that we would have legal complications if we did a cease and desist and were unable to definitively point to one site or developer, right?
Yeah. If were,
Because it costs them money when we stop the
For an
project.
overground flow, we could see where, silt
Right.
water and everything is breaking through the erosion controls and impacting property, right away, we would be able to do something and do a cease and desist. But just from a visual, all of those are holding in place. Nothing is flowing across the land into this. Could be groundwater, water trees have come down, it could be that, or it could just be the blockages really change things and the water's not able to get out like it used to.
I have one question, and I don't know if it's feasible, and don't laugh at me, but couldn't that water be pumped and trucked out? I mean, I feel it has to get down.
It can go right into the drain basin. That's
Yeah,
what
but
they're
it
doing
isn't moving fast enough.
could I ask you a question? The pumps that you're pumping, where is that water discharging to?
Right into the backyard.
So it's just really just going like
It's
this?
like that.
We're
Yeah.
just trying to keep it up.
If you,
Yeah,
I mean, if you were pumping that out to the street or something like that, obviously then it would be helping.
Yeah, we don't have the type of equipment to
Right,
do that.
I understand. Paul?
Just a quick thought on that. I've seen it happen before, the bad all these gas lines. When they put the gas lines in, they sand the trenches. It's like an underground work of water just flows right through the sand wicks,
Right.
and it could just be flowing right through there too, just something, just a thought.
Well, these gas lines are below this wetlands on that
I
side,
understand, but
but,
the water table comes up, it just follows those, and it just follows it right down through there.
sure, and that could be happening up from the site up, further up on
I've
Branch.
seen it through that and electric lines too.
Let me ask you a question. What can we do as a board? What are we empowered enough to do to put definitive timeframes on this, to put some sense of urgency on? Can we?
A couple of things. I mean,
Okay.
We're working with Mike Green, and I think you can contact him and Jim DeBarros tomorrow. If it's a water line leak issue, then you may have some information. With Mike, we can see, is this pumping working? If it isn't, maybe Greg Morse could be asked to look into some type of a basin, settling extra detention basin that could take thousands of gallons of water.
But why, if both sites are Greg's theoretically, he's managing, or whatever the word is, both sites, why, he's saying that it's not his, why can't he prove what it is?
Well, he's saying that he designed them, the new systems, to capture all the stormwater.
But-
Stormwater structures aren't constructed yet because it's all, you're cutting down trees and you haven't had a chance to get them working the way they should. So it's always a period of time where it's not going to be working as well.
Well, remember the stormwater process. They
Yeah,
design the site, we hire a consulting engineer to review that. Our consulting engineer reviewed the stormwater for that site as well as environmental person and agreed that those things should work. So, and the site is owned by somebody else. It's not owned by, Morse is the engineer.
right, yeah, sure.
For that. And they gave us, and the planning board, a plan with these pieces on it. Our consulting engineer reviewed those and determined that they were okay. Because that was Merrill, and there was some back and forth with Merrill
Yep.
on a few issues, right?
For the Branch Street, Curtis Street site, it was Merrill.
And wasn't it also, who?
On the lower
On
site.
Pippin?
on
All right,
Yeah.
so we have two different consulting engineers.
Yeah. They've been CC'd on all this, so they're aware of what's.
Okay.
The pipe is clogged.
Yeah,
That outlet pipe is clogged, that's the problem.
And they gotta get it dug up.
Can't get to it until the
But
water.
unfortunately, they've got to try to get the water down. Do you know if were they planning on returning tomorrow to continue to pump?
Mike said he's pumping 24 hours a day till it goes, but the volume that the pump. that
Well, they're
he-
not pumping now.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
No, no,
I swung by tonight.
Right.
He might be going back tomorrow. I know today he was there. I don't know
All right,
whether.
so I'll text them in the morning, and we'll find out, and we'll also check with the water department tomorrow, just to see if they've had any, I mean, that's the only place that a lot of water can come from, is a broken water main.
Okay.
And we've seen it happen, where there's been a rupture in the water main, these guys don't know where the water's going, and then they find out it.
Well, let me ask you, if it's determined that there isn't a broken water main,
Right.
and it's determined, that the pipe can drain some of the water out of there, if additional water isn't going in from a water main, it's coming from somewhere, and it
Right.
hasn't been coming from a bad season.
Yep.
At what point do you relook at, at the engineering plans that there is a bigger issue?
Well, we can contact the consultant. I think we should start with our consulting engineer, right? We paid him to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, the site engineer designed it, so we would.
Well, both of them, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
I mean, the town would, in a process like that, the developer, in this case, it was Susan Fippin's Trust, was the people that contracted with Morse Engineering to design that. They were never going to build that. They wanted to get the lots permitted
Right,
and then sell it.
right.
And so when that was being permitted, they pay money to the town of Scituate, and in turn, we hire an independent consultant, and in this case, it was John Cheshire for that one, it was Merrill for the upper one. They reviewed that work, and there was quite a bit of back and forth to be sure that Morse did those pieces, and I don't believe that that drain pipe in that thing was ever addressed by either Morse or the consulting engineer. I mean, we can look at it, but, so, I think, we have to figure out what that is. And I think if the town's willing to continue to try to pump that down, we can figure out who the problem is. Maybe the town has some recourse to either the gas company or whoever did that. Again, that's not your problem, but we got to get that water to a level where they can effectively do the work, is what they have
Clearly,
to
the
do.
course of action is to clear the pipe, and then see what happens after that.
Well,
That-
the first thing is that they got to get the water low enough so that there's not enough water up there to,
Yeah, so whatever it takes to get the pipe cleared, so, yeah.
Does that trickle down from this board to?
That's what I was asking, what can we do to, and so you're gonna talk to Mike, and then we'll see where we go.
I think that's the best.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Piece-
because Mike's already involved.
Yep.
I mean, he's got a pump out there.
Yeah.
They know we have a problem.
They've done more than that. I mean,
Oh,
there's,
yeah, no, I mean,
Can we not ask Greg to see if there's some sort of relief trench that we could, temporary?
Yeah, I can talk to him tomorrow, and we'll talk with Mike. If Mike's having some success, maybe we don't need a trench, and maybe we do. We can definitely do that. Yeah, all those options. The one thing is that this pond wasn't used as any part of the stormwater management system, so they were designing basins on their own property, separate from this. So there's no design to put extra water in there, but it's clogged and it's backing up, and if you can keep track of if it's going
Okay.
down, that would be helpful too.
Okay, definitely.
Steve?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment, I think that you're gonna find the basin that's on the Fippen property is higher than this basin where the wetland is. So you can't dig a trench from there into this.
Yeah, I don't know.
base.
I think it's lower, but that's,
And the amount of water.
It won't hold a lot of water.
Is only what's coming from those 3 homes, and if you've got a tremendous amount of water out there, it's gonna just go, a little bit of it'll be there, and then it's gonna, the problem's still gonna be there.
Right.
So, I don't think it's a good suggestion to try to tie into his system that he's got there. I'd go after the pipe. And as I saw the pipe out there, I would go after that pipe, that's gonna be the problem.
but we got to
If the
get to
town's
the
on it,
pipe.
Mike Green does a great job.
He's been
He'll do
amazing.
whatever it takes to get that fixed.
I mean, they hired an outside company today to try to sneak it.
Well, they're probably using trash pumps out there. The trash pumps, as you know, they pump slowly. They're not high-speed pumps.
Right.
I mean,
Well, the problem is that if they don't, they're gonna wind up clogging the impellers with all the leaves and
Right.
stuff that's in them.
But that's why it's taken a while. So it's a different type of pump that they use. It's almost like it's...
Thank goodness we didn't find out it was a vernal pool, then we'd really be,
Oh, man, yeah, pumping a vernal.
They would have had a water problem a long time ago if it was a vernal pool, because there would have been no outlet at all.
Right.
So I mean, it was really clogged when I was out there. I'm sure it just finally clogged itself up.
You certainly got everyone's attention. I know it's not exactly what you asked for.
No, you guys have really been amazing. I mean, Penny and Frank have gone out on their own time, Pat, and I called Mike Breen, and he came to the house within a half an hour. So, I mean, we couldn't ask for anything more, but we just have to make sure that the
Want it
immediate
down, you
problem
don't
is
want it
addressed,
again.
and it doesn't
It's
happen
understandable.
again.
anybody else?
No, let's just hope it goes away quickly. Get there,
We
All right.
can email you tomorrow, we can keep you in the loop.
Okay, that would be great. We'd appreciate that. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
very
again, I
much.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we
Thank
understand.
you.
Sorry, you're dealing with that.
Frank, thanks.
track.
Yeah.
I doubt this is the only other, and then this Paul as an informal.
Jen, do you have a piece that you wanna?
I just want to, sorry, Jen Key, Board of Health. I just identified that you were going to have a glyphosate conversation at some point in the meeting tonight.
Right. It wasn't really so much, we had an application for a person to deal with Phragmites, and they were proposing to use, I say glyphosate. You can- Correct, what's the?
Glyphosate.
Glyphosate.
Yeah.
And so, we continued that, correct? We didn't
Yes.
close that.
Right, it's on for the 16th.
So we continued that hearing for some more information. I wanted the committee to be aware of what they're talking about, the application, and not only that, but the surfactants that are in it, and find out what they're really trying to apply and when they'll do it.
This is a big site.
Yep.
Yeah.
The reason I asked, and I discussed this very briefly with Pat, is in my previous life, I had worked on an EIS for a FEMA project, where we did a biological opinion and toxicity assessment for several threatened species that were applicable at the site. There was an amphibian species, a reptile species, a plant species, and freshwater fish. So if there's in any way that I can contribute to your knowledge base as you plan to make a decision, I can provide those materials to Pat for your review ahead of that meeting.
That'd be helpful.
That was the only.
Yeah, no, we appreciate, it's a concern. It's now a number of years ago when the MBTA was building the train, part of the mitigation was to remove knotweed in the Greenbush area, and they were applying that, and it was a concern to the commission then. We have invasives that would obviously like to see cleaned up, but we just don't want someone going out there and treating irresponsibly or incorrectly. So, yeah, that would be, like you have nothing else to do. But, yeah, that would be helpful. Maybe, the applicant is pretty extensive for that project. Maybe you want to, Pat could give you a copy.
Sure. Yeah, I can take a copy. The little bit of information that I had so far was that there was a natural heritage area somewhat nearby. And it seemed to indicate that they themselves were aware of what the species were causing that heritage area, but I haven't been able to figure out what those are yet. So that would be a great question. And then the summary that I have indicates that, well, there's actually, it looks like there are 2 potential pesticides that are going to be used, imazapyr or glyphosate. So one of them says that there's a 1.5% solution, but the description seems to indicate that there may be 2 different doses, and obviously toxicity is based on dose.
Right.
So those were a couple of early questions that
Well, it would be, you've got more experience than...
I could have explained all this, but, you know. That's the government. Need an interpreter.
We can't even say the word.
All right. Well, we have that on for the next meeting, and we can continue it too. They don't want to do this application until the fall. What they want to do is do this towards the end of a cycle with this, when the plant's actually receding, so it draws it into the roots. We're just not sure that that's the right application, so.
Get a copy of this application, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's very extensive.
Yeah, but I'm sure Monsanto has a pretty good
I'm sure they do too, yeah.
Okay,
Just add that to all the other things they're killing.
all right. Well, we should be careful.
Yes, I can coordinate with Pat, and in any way that I can be helpful, I'll just work with him and provide him anything I have.
Thanks,
Jen,
Jen.
thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for your concern. I know that you only have about 1,000 oars in the water. But
It's all right, let's one more.
thank you.
See you, Jen.
Just wonder what you and Pat are still doing here. Well,
Riding by, yeah.
okay.
There's another informal, Paul Armstrong on a project down on
Jeez,
Central.
better be quick.
It'll be very quick. See everybody, I'm Paul Armstrong. It's Fred Hayden, the property owner. About a year or so ago, we constructed a pier opposite of 242 Central Ave.
Where's that?
Right across from Lisa's home. And we have been doing some thinking about the whole project, and what we want to, basically, we want to put a boathouse there. I spoke with Neil Duggan. It's in the zoning bylaw, and basically the reason we want to put the boathouse there is we want to store, it's going to be a piling structure. It's elevated approximately 4 feet off the ground, whatever the FEMA regulation is going to be. It's going to have a removable ramp. And basically in the season, throughout the season, he wants to store his little whaler in there, all his clamming equipment, his fishing gear, his lobster gear, paddleboard, sailfish, everything that's there, instead of what typically happens all the time. And even this past year, like the harbor master came around when there's a storm coming, you gotta clear the beach, and next thing you know, everything's over into the Marshfield side, and it gets all over the place. So basically, it's a simple structure that we want to elevate, and just store all his boat equipment in there. That's where his pier is. It's about 200 feet from the edge of the pavement to where the pier is, where the high water mark is. It's just nothing but a flat beach cobble area. There's no requirement in Chapter 91 because it's out of their jurisdiction, because it's out of the flow tidelands. And basically, I could just show you real quick on the plan. I just had a little sketch done through Smith. It's just gonna have a little barn door and a movable ramp. And
Is there a plot plan, Paul?
yes, this is the one that was done. The pavement here, and the pier itself is it starts right here. And there's a 50-foot, 100-foot mark, there's the other 100-foot mark. So it's 200 feet from the edge of the pavement to where the pier starts. So we just want to, keep it way away from the river and just basically just put this boathouse up so we can store all the boat gear and equipment. Because most of the time, everything's left all over the riverbank like it's always been, and it just turns into a nightmare. And this way we can store everything in a protective manner.
How big is little?
It's 24 by 26. I mean, to put like a 13-foot whaler on a trailer, and the ramp will be removable at the end of the year. We're going to have an aluminum ramp built, and
Sorry, I didn't look it up.
and the amount of
Yeah,
boating,
just go ahead.
Yeah,
but the amount of boating gear you can accumulate, it's just instead of taking the stuff up and down, up and down, up and down, it's just a good, secure place to keep everything.
So your question basically is, how would the commission look at this?
Correct.
And obviously, anything you're going to do, you're going to file.
Absolutely, yeah.
And the question is whether you want to take the time to file if it's not going to get entertained or whatever.
Correct.
And I'm not quite sure how to answer, maybe Pat.
There's a lot to this one because of the bylaw for the floodplain and the tidelines. We'd have to go through that. There's been other areas along Humrock where there's been denial of any type of development on it, even pilings. Is it A zone or B zone where this is?
I can't tell from this plan. He didn't give us enough.
I believe
He just
half
gave
and
us.
half.
Okay, so it crosses the street.
Across the street, we don't.
Yeah, and there's ongoing revisions to the bylaws going on right now too, so this is one we'd have to, I think Neil's looking under the building code, and it's something if we're elevated, it would probably be
And
allowed.
also, under the local bylaw too, the accessory structure, when I reviewed everything, he said as long as it's under the 1,000 square foot and so on, which we're not even gonna be near there.
Right.
It's just a place to, to store all of the equipment.
And that's where we would have sent you to start, would be a
Yeah.
building, but there's other things we're gonna have to look at.
Yeah.
And actually, before you even file, maybe we should look into a few things first and let you know.
Paul, why don't you get a better,
Yeah.
this is just
I just took a copy off the Chapter 91 license, but I can get you a full 2436 plan.
I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Be real helpful.
For Pat to,
Yeah.
And one other question, on the Chapter 91 for your gear and everything that's
Yeah.
in the water, do they make allowances for something outside of that area?
They have no jurisdiction outside, they end right at the, the high water mark.
because we went through this with, it's a guy that was down by the Mad Fish there, they did a pier, and then they wanted to have a small,
Where the
bathroom?
condos are.
Yeah,
Bathrooms or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
But they were out on the pier, so they were part of
They're
they were
all
part of
over the
the,
water, but we're not trying to do that, we're just trying to keep it on land.
Right.
okay.
But again,
But that was just a small,
Right.
it's...
Seasonal, too.
It's not a dune there either, it's just all, it's all beach cobble there at all. It's not like down further in Central Ave, you get a lot of fluctuating dunes and plant grass and things like that.
Yeah, it still is a resource area for Barrier Beach, so we
Yes.
have to look into,
Yeah.
under the state and the
Maybe-
local guidelines.
Performance standards for Barry Beach, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Well-
typical elevation and...
so with a little more definitive plan, maybe a little bit of thought, but nothing's a guarantee. You can
I understand.
file this thing and it's gonna go through public hearings and
Yes.
DEP
I can start looking for the next, I can talk to you between now and see what I can find.
I think Paul should get you a decent plan.
Like if the civil engineers that did the site plan, just, we could do a complete overlay of the location of it, where it is, and so on.
And the resource areas that it's in. Give Pat as much information as possible.
With elevations, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then-
Well, I'll talk to you then before you go ahead and file. We can see what we can find out.
Even like throughout the, like even over like Scituate, the Harbor Park, they built their buildings over there. I know that's a working marina over there, but it's just they added extra structures along that whole barrier beach there. It's a, very similar situation. It's just that this is strictly just for storing boat equipment, and
Yeah.
boat gear.
Oh, I don't think anybody's saying,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
think about, we obviously need a lot more
I understand.
information.
But the whole thing too is, even the owner's concerned, that way everything's protected, and if there is a storm, it just flows right through, and there's nothing there to, so he doesn't have to worry about it, and try to find it over on Little
Sure.
Street or Summer Street in Marshfield,
Okay.
so.
Still haven't found my stairs.
Pardon?
Still haven't found my stairs.
I think I know what they are.
I found a piece of them today.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. Give us some more information and we'll see what
Will do.
happens. Thanks.
Thanks for your time. Good night.
Do we want to launch into, get to some real business here?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's come from the historical.
So I'm just going to continue that, Brian.
Yeah. You know, we have to do at some point, I don't know whether Dave still has an interest in this, but we need to look and see what he's going to have to file and talk to him about that. I mean, we can continue till the next meeting, but
Yeah,
at
the
some point,
16th.
I've been meaning to see Dave and I just haven't,
Yeah, he called a couple of weeks ago and said he was still interested, but
okay.
Okay, so I make a motion that we continue to March 16th, an RDA for his Scituate Historic Society, 16 Countrywide.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Now you can give me the notice.
So we're going down to the notices? This is 134 Hamrock Beach Road. Is it Princey?
Yeah, it is. 134.
Princey, 134 Hamrock Beach Road, replace garage with two-story guest house. Is there anybody here for that?
I sent in a revised plan.
Yeah, they did, and they didn't come? Okay. So should I continue them for 2 weeks?
yeah, they went to zoning board of appeals and thought they had gotten.
That's what we were waiting for.
Yeah, we don't have any structural plans on that.
We haven't even, we opened this, that's it.
Right.
So I make a motion that we continue Princey 134 Hamrock Road to March 16th at 7 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do you want to, Carol, do you want to email him or have you,
I will.
let him know?
That we were looking for.
Okay. Sharon, 39 Otis Road, raise, rebuild.
Yeah, this was the one we were gonna close and issue on the same night. We had a couple things we needed.
But Paul was supposed to get back to you with some stormwater pieces. Do you have that information?
Yeah, so we determined that he does need to file in the stormwater bylaw, so we talked about closing, voting, and conditioning that no work could begin before a stormwater permit was applied for and received.
Okay.
And you sent us the conditions?
Excuse me?
And you
Yes.
sent us the
Yes.
conditions?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought I read them.
Is there anybody in the audience? Do you guys have any questions?
The other question was around
Can
the,
continue it?
No, we're going to close it. We're
Gonna
going
close it.
We're just
Well,
closing it.
let's see what happens.
Issue
Do
order.
you have any
to
other
close it.
questions
No, I
about
don't.
Bill? Lisa?
No, I do not.
Richard?
the other question we asked is, under the building code, could they expand to the size they wanted to? And in the A zone, he felt that that was all okay under the building code, so.
Okay. Anybody in the audience to speak to 39 Otis Road? This is a raise and rebuild.
I make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And we were gonna-
That's with the,
we were gonna
issue the
Orders.
orders. Yep.
But with that condition that
Yeah.
the orders...
That's on there.
Okay. Have a mo,
I make a motion we accept the orders of condition as written for Sharon, 39 Otis Street.
And that, nothing,
No work can begin until stormwater permit.
That was the condition that
I know
Carol
what-
added yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
And approve
I'll
the
second that.
condition for-
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Twit, Tracken, how do you say it? Trachtenberg. Sorry.
Good Deutsch.
Is this new?
Yes, it is.
We haven't seen you in a while, sir.
You're very lucky in that regard.
I saw you yesterday.
I'm doing my civic duty.
I didn't see you. I was up there.
Too late. You were way too late for him.
What time did you get out of there?
I got out about 9:15. She was still working.
I left right after you because I was the first one out of there. I was
Kathy
quick.
didn't get home till after,
All by myself.
Why? What-
after the
I'm
later
sure.
late news.
I mean, that was a long day, but she started an hour
I know.
earlier, I'm sure.
Carrie, Massachusetts.
I got there at 7:15 a.m.
You did?
I saw you, I waved, but you didn't pay any attention.
That hour of the morning, what do you
I was,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I didn't row for it. I know.
Yeah.
The other times I've seen you.
You didn't stop over at 2. They won't let me.
on March 2nd,
How come?
2016, 7 PM, the Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Massachusetts General Laws, and Section 30700 of the Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Deborah Trachtenberg to construct a timber pier and seasonal float system on property located at 264 Gannett Road, Scituate. Abutters and other interested parties are invited to attend.
I think it's
246.
246. I got it right here.
You know, you're the best.
So you know.
I should appreciate you more.
I sit next to Paul, what are you gonna do with that?
I needed something to read.
Chairman,
Good evening.
Steve.
Fire away.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky. You know, I'm an environmental lawyer, and I represent Ms. Trachtenberg, who is actually here this evening. This is Jeremy Packard. I don't know if you know him. He's a colleague of Carlos Pena from CLA.
I've been in before.
He's been here before, yeah.
Who is the design engineer. This is a fairly straightforward pier project for a single-family home, and I'm going to let Jeremy describe it for you. One small twist, and Penny and I think Bill may know about this, a portion of this pier is going to cross a piece of marsh owned by the Scituate Land Conservation Trust. This is an old land trust dating back to the 1970s that owns these odd pieces of salt marsh and other resource areas in town. It took us a little while to figure out who owned the property. Myron Bollock is the last remaining trustee. All of the other members of the trust have passed. I had some discussions with Penny about reviving the trust. It may be of some benefit to the commission as it deals with land use matters going forward. Things got very complicated last year. Ultimately, what we did do is we secured an easement over the trust property, which was reported last May. I've got copies of that. So we've secured those rights, but I just wanted the commission to know if there's any interest in taking over the land trust. I do have Mr. Bollock's resignation as trustee, and we could appoint new trustees if there's any interest. But that's a discussion for another evening.
Yeah, why don't you finish this one, but maybe just before you off the hot seat, we'll just discuss that for 2 seconds, all right?
But thank you. So that we digress a little bit, but I just wanted you to know some of that history. Otherwise, I'm going to have Jeremy present this to you.
Thank you.
So the project involves a 180-foot pile-supported timber pier. It crosses a salt marsh. At the end is a seasonal gangway and 2 floats proposed. Like I said, they'll just be seasonal, April to October. And so the coastal resource areas that are impacted under the Act are coastal land subject to coastal storm flowage, riverfront area, salt marsh, BVW, and land under water bodies. The land subject to coastal zone flowage has no form standards under the Act. It won't impede any of the land's ability to maintain the flows, and the storm damage mitigation is addressed by the piles. It's not a post-supported structure. It's solid piles, so that there'll be no storm damage increase. The land under water body will, there's just 6 galvanized steel pipes that'll support the float system. So it's really small impact, and there'll be no bottoming out of the floats. There'll be at least 2.5 feet of water under the floats at all times. So the float will never be in contact with the ground itself. The salt marsh, we've addressed the sunlight, the issue with sunlight getting down to the vegetation by orienting the pier in north-south orientation, and then also providing 1-inch spacing between all the planks of the pier. We're exempt from the riverfront area performance standards because we are subject to a Chapter 91 license.
That's easier.
And then finally is the BVW, and the project won't affect the BVW's ability to filter groundwater. It won't have any impact on the water quality, and that's pretty much all the impacts to the resource areas. Now, as far as construction, it'll be constructed using timber crane mats. They're temporary in nature. Basically, just put the mats down to the end of the salt marsh, start driving the piles, and you build back from there. Once the piles are installed in the decking, you remove the mats, and then all areas are restored. The salt marsh grass is replanted, and so the only lasting impacts will be from the piles themselves. The piles are green heart piles. They're not treated.
The piles are what?
Green heart. Closed. So they're untreated, so that there's no chemical treatment in contact with the ground there. And finally, so we asked to do 3 soil borings just to find out. We want to make sure we can get the correct embedment for the piles. So again, it'll be crane mats that get the drilling rig out there, and then two borings at either end of the salt marsh, and then 1 in the center. And all the impacts due to that will be temporary in nature. We received a letter from Department of Marine Fisheries that had a couple items I'd like to address. Sunlight was a big point of concern with them. One with the height to width ratio of the pier, and I think they may have misread the plans when they wrote the letter, because we do actually maintain the 1-to-1 height to width ratio across the entirety of the salt marsh. We don't start grading down until we get right to the edge of the salt marsh, and then we grade down to meet, I think, about a 1-to-23 rate. And we've actually revised the plans to show a beveled edge, on the timber planks. You can see right here. So if we bevel the edges on all the planks that have them square, that allows more sunlight to pass through on the east to west solar sweep. So that's one change that we made as soon as we received a letter from Marine Fisheries, trying to address their concerns.
I should note, if the commission's in a position to close the public hearing, we have sets to give to UPAC to complete the filing that shows that plan change.
Can you just orientate me here, because I can't.
You don't know where you are.
I can't figure out where.
You know where
You get out Gil Wilder's driveway.
You know where Gil Wilder is.
So this is a very unusual, beautiful piece of property. You access from Gannett Road. This is Gannett Road.
Yeah.
You go down from North Scituate, make a left down. There's an existing right-of-way that leads to this beautiful upland parcel of land right here, surrounded essentially on 3 sides by salt marsh. That's from the Squash Ridge, the bridges up here. House over here, I've got the address, it has that large pier, and I remember when
leave North Situate,
Yeah,
all right? On your left, there's a marsh area.
Yeah.
And then there's a single home that sits almost on like a little island. You go past that,
Yep.
there's a couple, like, 2 houses, 3 on the
There's one,
left.
just kill
There's one that almost sits on the edge of
Yep.
a tree.
I'm with you.
Then just past that, there's a home with a garage, and to the right of that, there's a driveway, and it's...
It goes back
It sneaks back up here. This is the existing
Can't see the house from
conditions
the road.
plan, and the intent is to find the shortest distance to the marsh. When I mentioned the land owned by the Conservation Land Trust, much to the client's surprise, who thought she owned down to low water and the salt marsh in front of her, like most people,
Yeah.
this little portion of land is owned by this Scituate Conservation Land. It took a tremendous amount of work to actually find that out.
So-
Over a year to get
So
that.
how long, so where's the,
Here's the proposed, so here's the house.
okay.
So here's the closest distance to the water, and the intention is, this is designed to get kayaks out to the water.
Okay, and how long is that pier?
180 feet,
So it's
And how wide is it?
3.5.
3.5 feet. So it starts right here on the edge of the upland, crosses a little DVW fringe, comes across here, there's a small deck area here, in order, that's
How big is that?
kayak storage, 8 feet by
8 feet.
8 feet by 8 feet. And then there's a gangway down to a seasonal float that's actually secured by, not by piles, but by smaller
Floats.
steel pipes, essentially. The idea is to create the bare minimum of structure to get access to the water, so the homeowner doesn't have to keep dragging the kayaks across the salt marsh, which is very difficult to do and disruptive. So it's pretty much the smallest structure that we can design to accommodate the client's desire.
How big is the platform at the end?
From this little deck.
No, keep going.
There's no platform, that's the float,
Yeah, okay, how big is the float?
2 6x10s.
2 6x10 floats, and those will be removed, they're seasonal, so they'll be removed and they'll be brought uplands.
They won't be stored on the marsh.
No, they can't be
No.
stored.
I know they can't, but
That's right.
we
So
have
how big
people
is,
that
how big is the
do.
storage shed where the car?
It's not a shed, it's a
No,
deck.
no, this is just a small deck,
Oh, okay.
Just a landing platform
A landing
area.
platform
This
to be able
is no
to
good.
get down to the
Yeah,
gateway and to be able to
almost
keep
impossible to
kayaks.
read, yeah. Well, that was, thank you for doing that.
Can you explain for me, and pardon me, humor me a little bit, what the equipment that's going to be used to put that in place? I know you said it, I just don't get it yet.
Yeah, so they have basically a crane rig that gets everything out there, put it in place, and they have,
And how is the crane rig going to get in there?
it's mats, timber mats. So they're like 8x8 mats that you put down one after another and lash them together. And that gets you out, and it spreads out any of the loads that you have, so you don't have point loads on any of the salt marsh. So they put them all the way to the end, and then work backwards and pick the mats up as they go. Yep, and then restore the area.
Just so you know, we actually explored accessing the property for construction from the water. You simply can't do it. You can't get a barge in, a barge, assemble it with a crane on it.
Where-
So all the work's from uplands.
Where are the property lines?
Scary.
This, believe it or not, is the property line of the,
Okay, and then,
and this is.
that's the conservation.
That's right.
Okay.
And it's not that whole area.
Yeah.
It's very odd. There's a little sliver.
Yeah, so
It
it's
just so happens
going
to be-
from her land to the conservation land and not crossing anything else?
No.
And we have a easement from the
And I have
conservation?
copies, if you'd
Okay.
like a copy for your file, you
I
have.
would like one for my box at home.
Is there,
With the cats in it.
is there any lasting damage or any concern that this crane, as the mats are put down and there for a while they're doing this, is going to have any lasting effects?
No, that's a typical method for doing any kind of construction on a salt marsh. Yeah, after it's restored within a year, you wouldn't even know they were there.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a few questions on that. Delineation work, so that was Brad Holmes, he did the watering vegetated and salt marsh delineation on this? Okay, and the dates of the,
Can we get green cards?
yes, yeah.
Forgive me, Carol.
The dates of the flood maps, there were a couple of different flood maps that seem to be used on this. There was a 2006 date and another 2008, and just want, and on the notes, it's showing 2012, and would want to make sure that the 12 map was used for all the elevations for the pier, the locating of everything.
They absolutely were, yeah. So we're in the
Okay.
AE7 zone. The deck elevation is around 9.
Okay, because I think in the notice, it's using an older flood map, but then...
It might list it, but it does, it states AE7.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Any natural heritage, or does that not start to get out into the...
It's on either side. It's not on this side at all.
Okay.
And that's, there's an appendix in there that shows the map.
In the other one. When you are in the driveway, it looks like, you know, in your alternatives analysis, when you give the 3 different options, it looks like if you went straight out the end of the driveway and showed it to the river that way, then the direction it's going, is there a reason?
Well, that would give it an east-west orientation, which would block more sunlight, which is a major concern of ours, and that's why we went north-south.
Okay, is that something that waterways considers as some sun orientation when they do?
No, but Chapter 91, they still have to go through the state for the Chapter 91.
Right.
And the harbor master, right? I think Chapter, no?
Not that I'm aware
This would
of.
be the only
It's just, we will apply for a Chapter 91 license as well as an Army Corps Section 10 permit.
So
This
do
is the
they
first-
rate
this is the
that
first step in the
distance
process.
versus shading, I mean, it would seem like they'd have to weigh, you know, was 180 feet of decking, bigger impacted, the shading, the east-west orientation, what is that?
What would be
Is that up to the applicant?
Yeah, I think they're gonna rely on you guys for that.
What would be the square footage rough of the savings between point A access and
I
point
think
B?
it's de minimis.
Okay. That'd be the
Yeah, I
small
hadn't
pad.
looked at the
And if
actual
you're on the
length of
North River,
but, maybe 150 feet versus 180 or so.
North River water.
Yeah, just if
Scenic
it's
Riverside.
riverfront, you know, we just asked them to look at all
Every
the
inch quite
alternatives.
counts, yep.
But just to be clear, while we're in riverfront area, there's a specific exemption for structures subject to Chapter 91. So the riverfront standards do not apply.
Goes out at 91%.
We provided an alternative analysis just to demonstrate that we thought about everything with respect to this. There's no legal requirement of an alternative analysis.
Okay, and the area, we talked about replanting some salt marsh area. Is that right at where the floats are at the edge there? Is that the area that would?
It would be the whole area impacted by the construction.
Okay.
Just to restore.
And it would be in the same spot?
Yeah, again, we don't anticipate any damage. We're going to be in and out of there quickly, but if there's damaged salt marsh, that will be replanted, and that's a requirement of this filing.
It's gonna be very similar to the one closer to North Scituate.
It's going to be smaller than the one close to
Yeah,
the Scituate, on
and I'll be
purpose.
honest, I don't even know if that was ever filed for, but that's something down the street, so I feel real good, I'm glad you came in, because you really wouldn't see it until it was out there.
No, we
No, but
and as you
I'm
see, we put
very
a great,
thankful.
we put a
did.
great deal of thought to make sure that we had a
Yeah.
complete presentation and evaluated all possibilities.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it greatly.
Well, the other thing is the fisheries letter. You had talked about one of the changes you made based on the fisheries letter. Did you guys?
Yeah, I read that.
Yes.
I mean, there's a few things that they're looking for, and if that's something that we should make sure it takes place as part of our orders, or is that something that you feel isn't necessary?
We've addressed all of their concerns.
Yeah,
And by the way,
that's-
this is a boilerplate letter that you get from fisheries. As you can see, it's got footnotes to academic articles.
Are the steel piers that are going in and out to keep the float in place, those are going to remain and the float gets taken out?
Those are gonna remain and the float will be taken out. And they'll be reset, when the ice comes in and freezes, if they get knocked out, they'll be reset. But yeah, those will remain.
Okay. Do you drive those or do you jet them?
Vibrate them in.
The jetting just gives off more siltation and stuff like that.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to jet them.
Everything has been designed to absolutely minimize impacts.
Is there anybody in the audience?
One comment. No objection, I mean, just an idea, because when you go to the core of Bergen, you're looking for graded decking, and that would solve your sunlight problem.
Like a composite?
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you, sir. And we evaluate different decking material. It's simply, some of it's just not practical in that application because of the exposure. So we certainly considered those alternatives.
Did we call that out on this?
He
What the decking
brought up the
materials?
decking.
Right, so our solution to provide even more sunlight is to use the beveled edge on the decking material to create more light.
What is the decking material?
It's ACQ treated timber.
One of the-
What did you say? I'm sorry.
ACQ
Wood.
treated timber? Yeah, it's timber.
So one of the comments in
It's a pressure-treated wood, but ACQ is a more environmentally friendly.
Okay.
Right, the fisheries called out that issue, but we're using Greenheart for the pilings. I mean, candidly, there are no really good materials that you can use for decking other than this material, and it's not coming into contact with the salt marsh. And so, while we appreciate fisheries' concern, this is the material that's standard in the industry, and it's been approved throughout the town, and if there was a better material to be used in that application, you know, we certainly would consider it, but there is none really.
I mean, would it be worth going through each of the bulleted points from fisheries? We don't do a
Sure.
lot of these. so
Yeah,
I
sure,
think we
sure.
rely on fisheries.
You want me to do it? Or Jeremy? All right. Issue number one is simply a general concern regarding shading. You know, our practical experience, and again, our practical experience is that these pier projects do not impact salt marsh via shading, but we understand that it's a concern. And we've designed this to meet all of the guidelines. So for example, there are guidelines for the construction of small piers under the Chapter 91 program. And they specifically call out things like the appropriate orientation, the appropriate height. We meet all of those requirements, and that was designed in compliance with the guide. We talk about the one height to width ratio. By the way, that's not a regulatory requirement. It's not even the DEP guidebook. It's a guideline. We meet that with respect to the pier itself. We don't meet that with respect to the deck, which is item number 3, because the deck's a little bit wider. Having said that, what we've proposed to do is to maximize sunlight, to use the beveled edging. Given the orientation and given the fact that that's 5 feet above the salt marsh, we don't think there's a real concern regarding shading in this location. With respect to the ACQ treated lumber, again, we're using Greenheart for the piles, and we don't think that there's, I mean, it's, again, aspirational. Wouldn't it be great if there was an alternative material to be used for the actual decking, but there really isn't to be used in this marine application. I mean, nothing is practical.
The fact that you're saying that before you didn't use this, must mean something else.
If you look at the references, you know, there are academic studies in Georgia. I mean, again, they're no regulations. They're aspirational. The second to last point is the proposed floats need to be a minimum of 1 feet.
The posts, the piles, are what they call Greenheart. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, Greenheart piles, so there are different kinds of piles. This is a natural, very expensive natural wood that you use as a piling material. It doesn't leach any chemicals into the environment. You know, typically, what they used to do is use essentially something.
Creosote, yeah.
That's right, sort of a chemically treated pile. They're still used.
Oh, yes.
But we're not using that. We're using, this is a very expensive project because we specified wood.
It's a tropical hardwood is what it is.
Yes.
So all those special kind of woods where they come from is South America and the tropics, the rainforest, and they're really, really dense. And that's why you don't need any treatment.
Oh, like the fruit woods kind of thing?
Fruit woods, and yeah, nothing to get into it for that reason.
The second to last point concerns the floats. They want a minimum of 1.5 foot separation between the bottom of the float and the substrate at high tide. It just so happens that's tidally restricted. It can go no lower than 2.5 feet at mean low water because of the dam on the Cohasset side. So this is not an instance where you're either going to get a float sink on the bottom or anything close to the 1.5 feet. So it's 2.5 at mean low, a little bit of variation, given, I guess, I don't even know whether you can have an extreme low tide there because of the dam. I mean, there's a physical limitation as to how low that water gets because of the dam. And so there's no need in this instance, for example, float stops or, feet for the flow. It just physically is not going to happen. The last point is, habitat loss. There's no estimated or rare species habitat here, so that's not an issue. So as I said, we've addressed all of the concerns. The one project change is the use of bevel. I mean, we have a revised plan set that we can submit to you if you want to refer to the revised plan set. The other alternative is to issue an order with a special condition requiring the beveling, but it's probably easier if it's put on the plan. And so we have copies of those.
I mean, I know people want to move this along.
I'm not suggesting that we do. You bring up anything you want to.
Yeah,
I've got a few questions.
Yeah, it's a few questions, but I mean, I think if we didn't close, it would be good just so we get a couple of questions answered. I mean, I'd run a couple of things by Christians. I think you provided all the information. I just have, we don't do enough of these. I don't want to close it and then not be able to answer.
I have a few
questions.
I got a couple. In other applications on the Gulf Association has weighed in. Did you get any input from the Gulf Association?
No.
Do you have anybody particular to notify with that? Do you know?
We're not aware of any regulatory requirement to notify, and I don't even know what the Gulf Association is. Is it a group of homeowners who?
Yes.
I mean, there's no regulatory requirement.
Right, okay. But there is when we've had hearings on this in the past, typically somebody that was notified as an abutter wound up, we got some sort of letter. And I realize that. If you were on the North River, you'd be dealing with a Scenic
Rivers Act, that's an entirely different piece, but there's no comparable regulatory.
There isn't, Adam, but let's just, so if this was on the North River, there's a ratio of where the height is for this pier. The Scenic Rivers Act, and it's pretty stringent. Army Corps of Engineers wants to make sure that this doesn't impede water flow. And then the Scenic Rivers Act wants to make sure that visually these don't create a problem. And then you have the issue with light and all that stuff, and that's why there's a fairly critical height to this piece. And my question is, how does this compare to the piers that you've designed that go on the North River in terms of elevation? Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, we design them all to be above the floodplain.
Yeah.
And then we shoot for that 1-to-1 height to width ratio.
Okay.
That's just standard practice for us. So it really doesn't vary at all. We would have proposed the same thing there as we are here.
And just as a point of information, the Army Corps is actually focused on preserving navigable waters. They're interested in commercial boating traffic, but obviously it's not a concern.
Yeah, but they also have a critical piece to the height of that across the marsh.
Guidelines under their programmatic general permit, and they're all the same.
Okay. This is a pretty substantial pier. I mean, these are 1-foot diameter piles, 10 feet apart or 12 feet apart?
We actually sized down the piles to make them even smaller. I think much to Carlos's chagrin, we would like to build a commercial grade pier, and we said that was inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at this for a walkway that's for kayaks to go out here, now realizing that ice and snow and everything can have an impact on this. You want to make sure that it doesn't get shifted or twisted, and we don't want this floating off into Cohasset or jamming up.
That was the major concern, right? And that's.
I've had very long conversations with Carlos regarding this. We're trying to find the balance between having a meaningful structure and not overbuilding in this location. So actually, the 10-inch
piles are compromised. He would prefer something larger.
I thought it said 12
Well,
inch.
excuse me. I've had so many conversations with Carlos about piling size that I can't recall where we ended up.
I'm seeing 12-inch green hard timber piles.
You're right, it's 12 inch, his proposed.
I mean, that just seems like a pretty, so there's 2 piles this size every 10 feet?
Correct.
And that's to mitigate storm damage too. We just don't want a storm coming in. It gets pretty
You
significant.
tie up the Queen Mary to this thing.
Actually not. I mean, if Carlos had his way.
We're talking about taking some kayaks.
Well, the width of the pier too is pretty minimal. I mean, 3.5 feet.
No, I think that's admirable. I think keeping the pier, that walkway narrow enough to allow light and not obstructions, I think that's a great idea. I'm just looking at the mass and driving these kind of piles on this marsh and the impact of that, and wondering if that's really a little bit of overkill.
So Frank, I can assure.
And I'm not an engineer.
Carlos is not here, Jeremy's here. I pushed Carlos hard on the minimum size pile that he would agree to sign off on a plan for the homeowner, and this was his recommendation, and this is smaller than several iterations of this plan.
Are there any seasonal concerns when you're building, if you need to build it when it's not frozen, or when it is frozen, or when there's no moon tides, or is there anything like that that you have to follow?
The mast will keep us above any of the tides. When it's not frozen, the only time the freeze thaw would hurt us was when we were actually trying to put the galvanized steel pipes in for the floats. Other than that, there wouldn't be any real time of year restrictions.
How far do the piles go in?
That's what we're going to do the borings for, to make sure we can get embedment. We'd like to get them at least 25 feet in the ground, but we need to see how far we can get.
And these are deep.
25 feet down and how far above the water?
At least so that 9 feet to the deck, and then another 3.5 feet, so 12.5 feet.
They're big. They're
You think?
long, yeah.
They're long.
Yeah, they're long. They won't go anywhere.
Do Chapter 91 people look at that type of stuff too, like the pilings and with?
Yes, one of the standards is it's reviewed for engineering appropriateness. And again, these are also designed in accordance with DEP's guidance with respect to these structures.
Well, if there's no environmental impact here, it'll be a couple of acres in some tropical forest.
We can't solve all of the world's problems here. My hope is that they're a sustainable crop for the source of.
There you go. Well, it's work for somebody.
Well, let's put it this way, you can't import these things illegally into the United States.
I understand.
Well, we're not
But
going to
you
close
can
tonight.
understand our concern as a commission.
I share those concerns.
I don't think we're going to close anyway tonight.
No, we're
right?
not.
So,
What do you want?
Right, if we could get our questions answered and we could close at the next meeting and have conditions.
OCs, yep.
And we're happy to cooperate. I have no questions on my list, so.
What are his questions then?
No, just
want
run by the
answered?
fisheries, just to see if they're okay with, you know, the responses back from them. And we have old orders on this site that are on archives from past projects. I just want to make sure there was no restrictions against, you know, further pier work or something like that. I mean, we have to pull them out of archives and stuff.
That would have been.
That would, there was an order of conditions, well, actually.
For an addition or something, we
I'm not
did.
even sure of it, because it's, well, is it buffer zone to the wetland line? I don't have a scale.
Whatever,
Yeah, we,
but we'll have them.
This might be an outside your jurisdiction.
Yeah,
A
sorry.
couple of files, I don't know what they have there.
Paris gave me a call last year.
You know, it's just,
So isn't it realistic then to continue this and go with the idea that we could conceivably have orders ready for the next, close and have orders ready for the next meeting, and that gives you the chance to get the questions.
Is a couple of weeks enough
Oh,
time
yeah,
for you to look
yeah.
at that?
Oh, definitely. yeah.
All right. Okay.
6.
And if you're talking to your boss, just ask him about that pier size again.
I will, I certainly will.
Say Frank wants to know if he can go
This is the fourth or fifth design that we had to do in order to address these very concerns. It's been a very long process.
Okay.
Throw it out there one more time. Okay, so I'll make a motion that we continue. 246 Gannett Road until March 16th at 7:10.
Second.
So we've got a lot to do tonight, but maybe you and I could talk sometime soon about that Conservation
Yes,
Trust.
I volunteer to assist any way I can to do that.
That'd be great. Appreciate it, Alan. Thank you.
Vote.
Did we get a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate your thoughtfulness on this. Put this together.
That's, you want this?
There's a ton in my background.
I want this guy. I know. Well, it's, I'd like a copy of that at some point.
Somebody stole my agenda.
That's where they are. Somebody will know where they are.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
In my background.
Yeah, I know.
Viviano, 196 Central Ave, 12-foot deck on 3
you going?
sides. On March 2nd, 2016, 7 p.m. Town Hall, Scituate Conservation Commission will hold a wetlands hearing under Chapter 131, Section 40 of Massachusetts General Laws and Section 30700 Town of Scituate Code of Bylaws regarding the application of Michael Viviano to build a 12-foot deck on the east, west, and south sides of a dwelling located at 196 Central Ave, Hummerock. Others and interested parties are invited to attend. Good evening.
How are you today?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Michael Viviano, general contractor. This is a project down in Hummerock on 196 Central Ave. We're planning on putting a deck on 3 sides of the home with a driven wooden pile. And that's pretty much what we're planning on doing.
I don't even want to touch it if you opened it.
Yeah, I know, you're gonna be,
Oh,
you'll be cursing me tomorrow.
It was Paul Paris that gave it the coal last.
A lesser man from the show. Yeah, he doesn't wanna, me.
But he doesn't want to.
I know. Well, usually you have it outlined with color for me. So is this adding on?
Yeah, that's all.
This is adding on to the perimeter of the house? It's not existing?
Right, not existing.
No, it's nothing exciting.
And how is it being supported?
By wooden driven piles.
What's there now, Mike?
On one side, on the south side, there's an existing concrete patio.
And the piling for the existing, is there an existing deck on?
There's a small walkway out front towards the street of Central Ave,
Yeah.
and with a set of stairs going down. There's removable stairs that come off of the concrete patio. They go out to the walkway to the beach with stairs going down over the riprap stone.
No, they're not doing anything with the sea.
But that's the extent of what's existing.
Have you gone
So you
to
have
Neil yet,
riprap.
the building? Have you gone to Neil Duggan?
Well, the first step would be to get approval from conservation, and then we'd go to the Rivermore structural engineer to design, or we go to Anderson Engineering, or one of the engineering companies to design the tie-downs and the beam system that would be holding up the support of the deck.
And we could make a set of orders subject to having those.
Right.
Yeah. You're not gonna be on top of the riprap, right?
No, it's before the riprap.
Yeah, but it looks very tight.
So you,
Well, we held back the structural beam and the pilings by 2 feet.
Yeah, okay.
The cantilever, the deck, to
Okay.
that point so that we could run removable stairs for the summer.
Okay,
Mike, is there a concrete patio under this?
yeah.
Well, there's one existing right now, but it's about 2 feet lower than, it's 2 steps, so it's 3 steps. It's 18 inches down from the
Okay.
top of the floor.
Okay.
And we won't be disturbing that, we won't be taking it out or anything else, because it's substantial. And there's no real reason it's gonna be, it's been there for 50 years now.
And this is an open deck, right?
This is an open deck.
It's not roofed or anything?
Nothing.
Penny?
No, I don't have any questions, thank you.
Lisa?
No, I have any questions?
Richard? No question. Patrick?
I think it would just be the condition that the building department is okay and,
It has this structural...
right. How many filings on there? It's like 10?
12.
12.
Is there anybody in the audience for this? For motion to
I
close?
make a motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Pat, do you have plans for your folder? Do you want these?
I threw the germ ones in the box.
Unless you do.
It's my phone.
If I'm sick of the weekend, I go shoot the
Ring, because I turned the ring on.
Okay. Couple of orders of,
Yeah.
You gonna live?
For another 5 minutes or so.
do you want this filing?
Sure.
This is an email related to the next one.
Okay.
The next one.
So this is, we're gonna do orders,
But 108 as we thought?
yeah.
The other one's the already did, yes. What's up now?
It's this gentleman here.
Yes. So we have an email from Neil Duggan regarding building code.
Yeah, he was correcting something that the DPW had stated.
DEP had comments on the, and so we better talk with DEP.
Mike, do you want to come?
Yeah. So,
What are we talking about here?
this is 108, there's an
Public
elevation.
plaza.
Okay, thank you.
And DEP, their comment was maybe it should be on pilings, it's not in a velocity zone. And the building inspector said that, you know, if you want to raise it and you're on a foundation, you're going up a foot and you can put the cutouts in the bottom. He thought it met building code. So then I think you spoke with DEP.
Yeah.
And I spoke with Neil, and we got an email back from you about your conversation with...
Right, I reached out to DEP.
And so what happened when you spoke with Greg on that?
Yeah, so I went to pick up the permit, and Neil said that he had included, the DEP had included that comment, and so he said you might want to follow up with him to get him to find that, because it's really, it's inaccurate. So I did that, so I reached out and spoke with Greg, and Greg's comment was that, you know, anytime there's a barrier beach, that's a standard kind of comment that he puts in there, and it wasn't a must-have, it was a kind of, you know, should be, but we were not doing the material change to the footprint of the foundation, we were using the existing, not disturbing it, but just elevating from the existing. And Neil said it doesn't, it's not a state requirement with, unless you hit the substantiality, and this doesn't hit that threshold, so there's no requirement to do pilings. And the gentleman said, you know, look, it's not my call anyway, I don't even have the plans anymore. I've filed
you know, I've moved on, but, so I tried to summarize the conversation there. I have,
Yeah, it seemed pretty clear that you were under the ratio, that
yeah.
the trigger.
So that's what basically Neil's response was, that, because he had already reviewed it and issued the permit earlier, and he's like, Mike, this doesn't meet the threshold that's required to kind of go to a pilot application.
Did you sign off already?
No, I have it, and we were gonna check on the stonework to support the wall. I was doing two parts of this, and then Mike decided you're not gonna put the boulders on the beach side of the wall. So there's gonna be a splash pad on the inside, so there were two things we were looking at. So,
Right.
Yeah.
So it was basically, if, you know, if Neil's okay with this, and DEP is okay with the response from Neil, and you're not gonna be doing any work on the beach, and the splash pad sounds like a good idea, because that's where this has been eroding in the
Yep.
past.
Yeah, so,
And you sent in a planting plan that I think you guys might-
so what, I think it was, Frank, it was your suggestion last time that we maybe incorporate any repair for what that recent storm had done.
Right.
And that Pat had suggested I go up to 138 Edward Foster, which has a similar application done behind the wall. I wasn't proposing anything to the wall or on the ocean side of the wall, just immediately behind the wall. It had scoured out.
Right.
So the application that they had done at 138 was to put a angular rock 4 to 6 inch surrounded by Marafi filter fabric, and then on top putting large boulders with the flat face up to create a splash pad approximately 10 feet back. I don't know that I would go actually that wide, maybe 8, but so the stone, the filter fabric around the stone, and then the boulders with the flat side up, and then I chinked them in with smaller. And then what I had put in the note to Pat was that to actually enhance the ability of that to work, I was looking to plant beach grass between that stone application and the beach grass that's there existing, just to beef up that kind of, you know, that barrier.
Sure.
And so that was basically it. There was 2 areas that in the front of the property had washed out, and I was looking to backfill them as well. I kind of highlighted them on the plan. I was going to propose kind of an angular rock and then cover them. I have to, you know, I don't know that, I was just going to repair it in kind. It was kind of a gravelly, sandy area that just, it got washed out because there was nothing to really retain it. So I'll probably look to plant something in the spring there. You know, it's not really a beach grass location, but it's, I need to plant something, and the Rosa roses work great, but I don't think you want me to get too much concentration of those on the property, so I probably put some.
What does the beach, what does the fabric do around the rocks? Just
holds it back.
Yeah, well, you put it beneath, you put the rocks in.
Yeah, you kind of wrap around it, yeah.
And it keeps it from getting filled up with sand.
Oh,
It drains.
so it filters out, oh, I see.
Yeah. It's the same application they did just a few houses down.
Yep.
The seawall that we conditioned by Carrie's house.
Yeah, the big thing is, it's so much not the seawall, but the splash pad underneath that keeps, that goes.
And the other
Yeah.
comment that I had put in the proposal to Pat was that with respect to the actual house itself, there's minimum kind of work there. It's only to cut out the openings in the concrete to facilitate a person to raise it. So, and the material adjacent to the house is largely loose sand. So we're just going to pull the sand away, cut, and just backfill the sand. And we're looking to use a small track-mounted hoe just to keep the disruption. And there's a brick with a cobble outline kind of walkway that runs up the south side of the house. And I was proposing that, using that access to get around the house, so we wouldn't be going out.
Up on the sand and everything.
The only place that we'd have to run, there's a walkway that runs to the seawall, and I would use that to get to the, put the stones along the back of the seawall, and then we'll plant and then be done. So that was really very limited work for the house raising. There's actually more work in placing the stones behind the seawall.
And we added that plan to the submission, so that's part of the order. Carol added it.
Okay. So you're satisfied?
Yeah, I answered what we asked.
Okay.
So I make a motion, we accept the orders as written for 108 Pickwood Foster.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks.
We did Sharon.
Yep.
Certificates of compliance. Adam, what do you?
24 Webster, enforcement.
Can I
Okay, yeah, well, why-
minutes quick?
No.
No, okay.
Wow. That's
You want to speak to that?
We're happy to, I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let
no.
Frank
He owes her one from earlier, so yeah.
That's all right. I'll remember it. I wrote it down in my book.
She won't hold it against you for long, Adam.
No, not you, Ed.
I was willing to wait.
Kids.
Good luck, Adam.
Oh, you are.
Did you take that?
Okay, so-
filing?
Well, this is wet.
So what's this?
So, good evening, everyone. My name is Adam Brodsky, as you know. I'm here with one of the homeowners, Isaac Schwecke. The title's in the name of Janine Olsham, and we're here in response to a letter from the commission dated February 3, 2016, regarding some existing, well, they're not even retaining walls, they're walls that they were existing. They were repaired when this house was raised and rebuilt. This is one of the homes that burnt down in Hummerock, and the commission issued an order of conditions for the work. And I can show you some photos, but there's some concern that surrounding the house, not the property itself, were existing
Who's the
concrete.
foundation?
They're block, well, these are block.
I know, they're
block
block.
walls. In any event, I think there's some confusion as to what was allowed to be allowed to remain under the order of conditions. So let me tell you what I know, and you'll tell me where I'm wrong, because I'm actually a little bit confused by the plans, which were a little bit inconsistent. So the Cavanagh site plan that was issued and connected to the order actually shows these walls on the site, and there are no notes about those walls to be removed. I looked at the architectural plans by Dick Rockwood, and they seem to disagree in some respect. I looked at the meeting minutes for all of the public hearings, including the last, and most of the discussions actually had to do with paving of the driveway and a new septic system going in. There's only one reference that I found actually with respect to these walls. Well, I've got copies here. And of course, I wasn't involved at the time. But these are the meeting minutes. On the second page, I should have highlighted in yellow. The only references I found in the meeting minutes to the walls. And so the first entry is Ms. Hudson, so that's Carmen Hudson from Cavanagh Consulting, who did the permitting. Existing dwelling has a full basement. New dwelling will be on piles. Maintain elevated paver patio, retaining walls, part of foundation, yard and walkways. And so that's what Ms. Hudson told the commission. And then Ms. Scott Pipes responded at some point, it's highlighted, understand, have a difficult time allowing asphalt back. It doesn't meet performance standards, don't have a problem with the wall. So that's the only thing I found in the meeting minutes regarding these walls. We actually do have a problem with one of the walls, and I'll show you some pictures so you know what we're talking about. So
Adam, are you saying that the walls were there and they're still there?
Existing walls, what happened is some of them were damaged during the fire.
Yeah.
They were rebuilt, and as I'm going to show you, in certain instances where they're rebuilt, the mason, without permission, added several courses of brick.
There we go. Okay. I get it.
That's the issue.
There we go.
That's the issue.
So I assume you knew about this, I didn't know how deep.
I didn't know where you were going.
That's
All
not
right, so
really.
here we go.
Okay.
So I got a bunch of photographs.
No, it's not just
I needed to
It's
learn about
on
this.
3 sides.
Wow.
So, so let me start on the east side, which is the side facing the beach, and I've got photos. So essentially, this is the front of the house from the beach, the back of the house from the street. All right. And you'll see there's an existing seawall, there's an existing patio, and it leads up the house. If you look in the left-hand corner, you'll see there's a wall. It's a cinder block wall. I've got photographs of this from the other angle. So this is looking at it essentially from the east. This would be the southeast.
So that's there.
So here's the corner. That's the beach side.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And you'll see what happens. So this is the easiest place to see this. So you'll see here that it's hard to say. There were actually 4 original courses, and then the mason added 2 additional courses on top. It's hard to see in this photo. 4 original, 2 additional courses. The problem with that wall, the east side wall, is that it's actually parallel to the beach, and we recognize it as the problem. So as part of this, what we'd like to do is get permission from the commission to have the mason come back and remove those 2 additional courses on the wall that's parallel to the beach to bring it back to existing conditions. And that will, to the extent, the water is going to flow underneath this structure and go over the short wall, but that's what was there existing, that's what was shown on the existing conditions plan.
Adam, isn't the whole idea nowadays to have water pass through kind of freely, like breakaway points and stuff? So,
yes.
I mean, wouldn't this wall, the water hits this wall and goes left and right, probably into somebody else's property, right?
Into the client's property. There's a vacant lot next door that at some point will be built. On the other side is an open area. Yes.
Yeah, well, if I may add, for the way the property was, again, I didn't ask to have this house
Your name is?
I'm Isaac Schweike, one of the owners of the property. I never asked to have this house rebuilt. It was up to me, I would still have it, and it's unfortunate that at the time, the hydrants weren't serviced properly, so the house couldn't be put out in a timely fashion. But that's a whole nother story. But the way the house sat for years was almost like a fortified bunker. It was a full finished basement, never any problems with it or anything of that nature. And the way the property has a dune in front of it, and then there's the walls on the side. So when the water always went over the seawall, it would always go surround and be able to, especially on the Webster Street side, the water would be able to go through and then literally go down the street nicely. And the same thing on the other side where the wall was there and the water would go over and it would flow nicely. So it held the dirt that was there and it went, on both sides. So it was never really any problems as far as hurting any structures or anything. The water always went freely for years. So it's not like I'm changing the water wave on the property, except, like
Well,
Adam said.
for height-wise,
For
yeah,
height, on the
right.
ocean side, correct. They, unfortunately, being an absentee owner, and then the mason coming up saying, hey, come up and pay me, and then finding out that I'm looking on the ocean side and like, oh my God, we've got to, have to take this down a couple courses. And he says, well, I can come back in the spring because he was originally supposed to do this in April, so that's kind of where we are today with this.
So we want to take it down to the pre-existing conditions that apparently were discussed when the commission issued the order.
I was on the commission at the time, Penny was also, and I don't think you were actually, but that's beside the point.
Lisa wasn't, no.
And I was not at this particular meeting, but I was on it, and I live down the street. So I'm very familiar with the wall, and I think you're absolutely right, Adam, that needs to be taken out. But the idea was, it's not just that side, it's the 3 sides. And that's what made it so noticeable. I mean, I can walk down Central Avenue and see it just looking
So
down the street.
I'm happy we're going to talk about all of the walls, but so
if I could
yes, sir.
just finish the thought. Nobody asked for the walls that were there to be taken out. It was that they would not be extended. And that, I think, was the whole crux of the issue.
No, and we agree that we're going to ask your permission to be able to reduce that east side wall back to existing conditions. And again, it's in the homeowner's interest to do that because you don't want water hitting the wall going up into the house. So that we have no issue with that whatsoever. And how we do that, I have some ideas as to sort of procedurally how you want to do that. So the next side I've got is the south side.
So while you're doing that, can I ask you guys a question? I mean, would it have been the idea to not have the wall there at all? But because it was existing?
I think that if you read some of the minutes, part of the discussion was that it was a fire, that it wasn't, they didn't come in and ask for a new brand new project. They were trying to rebuild their home as best they could.
Right.
And I think we gave some freeboard to the fact that there had been a fire there.
Gotcha, I'm with you, okay.
And they also asked, Bill, there was a certain wall that they wanted to keep, and they wanted to make sure they could have the patio up at the top by the wall. They specifically asked for all that, and we went over that very carefully.
Yeah, okay.
Another wall.
I got you, okay, thank you.
So this is the south side of the property. And so this wall is actually perpendicular to the beach.
Right.
This wall was not
See this
added
from
to.
space?
So it was originally 9 courses. It got knocked down in part during the fire, and the mason rebuilt it exactly as it existed. You can see the new portions, obviously, because there's a difference between the painted and the unpainted. But that's the existing wall that existed at the time. I note that and I'll talk about this a little bit. The orientation is perpendicular to the beach, and that has some regulatory significance. Since that is simply a repair of the existing wall, we're not proposing to do anything with respect to that.
I don't remember it being that high.
Oh, it was that high because I know we had a lot of,
I remember it being in the sand. It was to keep the sand on your property.
That wall back to original that's the height that it was before, because basically when we had our house, we were able to go down 2 stairs, and it was almost like an alcove where it's almost like a little sun area where there's a whole patio of its own, and that's how high it was, where the neighbors weren't able to see us or anything like that of that nature. So
Is this on the property line, this wall?
yes.
Yeah, the tall wall you're talking about was inside this wall next to the house. It was like a little fortress inside.
And then it did an L shape. So it went in, and that's part of that L. So which then sits on that coastal dune where you come outside through the side of the house.
I only remember the height being how high the sand was, and the sand was not that high.
I mean, I'd be more than happy to go and...
You did have inside
Yeah.
that another wall, and it was like a little fortress.
The house was like a fortress. That's why we bought the house. Because, the whole finished basement, there was never any water in that house when we owned it. We've owned it for 10 years now, but believe me, we miss our old house. I mean, this has been really a very traumatic, it's been very traumatic for my wife and I to even rebuild this house. Everyone comes up to us in summertime and says, wow, you have a beautiful mansion. And we're like, well, you don't know about losing a child over for miscarriage and everything else because of this headache that actually happened. Obviously, it's unfortunate, but we didn't ask for this. We asked for our old house.
Well, one of the things, though, is originally it might have been more like a fortress, but the approved plan did not have this on.
No, it didn't.
Did not have these heights of the walls.
Well,
and the certificate of compliance, when that was issued, this wasn't even done. The certificate of compliance was done with either lower. So this is work done without a permit. I mean,
This was only repairing, and you can even ask the builder, because the builder, and Mike is not here tonight, obviously he's in Florida, unfortunately, but even he was saying too, we just repaired everything that was there that was broken before, that was taken away.
The permit that you approved.
And again, I think there are ambiguities, certainly on the plan. The plan isn't, you're certainly allowed to put back in what was there. Again, we admit that the mason on the east side of the property went too high. And here's another, this is the north wall. That's on the, again, the north side. And the mason additionally added 2 courses here. So there were originally 6 courses, and he added 2 courses. This, again, is perpendicular to the
Street side out, correct? Correct, on Webster Street.
On the
Yep.
Webster Street, yes, that's correct. All right. So, here's, and again, there's no question that the mason added 2 additional courses to this one.
But that's
Right, it's repairing an existing wall. The question is what's the relevant performance standard and what's the issue here? Really, the only relevant performance standard is land subject to coastal storm flows, which, as you know, there is no performance standard under the Wetlands Protection Act. Generally, DEP addresses structures pursuant to the flood-resistant construction requirements in the state building code. DEP doesn't really regulate walls, and neither does the building code. I think walls are specifically addressed within your regulations under the bylaw, and specifically SWR 1038. So a portion of this property is located within the B zone. The vast majority is actually A O zone. That demarcation is towards the front of the house. As a practical matter, it really doesn't matter. The performance standard is no adverse effect by increasing elevation or velocity of floodwaters or increasing flows due to change in drainage. And it's kind of interesting. Your bylaw actually prohibits new parallel walls. Draws a distinction between parallel walls and perpendicular walls. So again, you've got existing conditions. The parallel wall in the front, we're requesting permission to take down because that's not appropriate. It makes, I guess, no sense from a performance standard point of view to take down the 2 additional courses on the northern side. And how you want us to resolve that, I mean, I don't think we need an after-the-fact notice of intent to accomplish that. Again, the commission actually issued a certificate of compliance for the project.
But it didn't look like this.
It didn't look like that.
This work was all done after we issued a certificate of compliance on 3 sides.
Right, no.
At the very least, it requires a new filing, a new notice after the fact, at the very least. But if you look at DEP performance standards, I mean, there's coastal dunes somewhere in this area. There's...
But you have an existing structure that you're allowed to maintain.
Well, you've elevated the house, put it on pilings, and some of the areas that were destroyed by fire are allowed to leave as they were, but not to expand them. If you get a storm directly onto the house, yes, it'll flow under. You get anything from the northeast, it's going to hit this wall and it's going to deflect somewhere else. May have been fine in the old days. We have a whole new project here.
Unfortunately, from a regulatory perspective, you don't, because you're allowed to maintain your existing conditions. The structure, which is regulated under the building code, needed to be elevated because it was a substantial improvement, more than 50% of the market value, so it needed to comply. But in a perfect world, if I was to come to you for a new house in this location when there's nothing on that site, I certainly wouldn't be asking you for perpendicular walls, but they existed. And the only error is that, at least with respect to the north and the east side, they went up several courses. We're prepared to take down the courses on the parallel wall. There's no regulatory reason to take down the additional 2 courses on the northern side, because again, it's perpendicular to the beach, and we're allowed to maintain that. So again, not a perfect world scenario, and I agree with Pat. New project on an undeveloped lot, not going to happen. But these are a combination of existing and new conditions out there.
If I may add too, I just want everyone to know as well, we didn't do this after the fact. This wasn't one of our things, because I know a lot of times around here, people might do things after the fact, after we get approved. Driving up here from Connecticut is not really on a Wednesday night is really my idea of spending here. I'd rather be with my family. So, it was funny because I told this to Pat, and I'm sure we all would, but I said this to Pat that when we did it and I came up here and I saw the mason and I said, he goes, do you want me to paint it? I said, no, don't paint it. Because I have nothing to hide. Why would I paint? If I have something to hide, I would paint it right away. So for me, I'm not thinking anything is wrong with what like I told you that I did anything wrong here. So.
We're not saying, you did anything intentionally wrong, it's just.
Well, I just want to get that across.
So here's my thinking from a permitting point of view. I mean, we can do work essentially under an enforcement order. There's no need for a separate filing. We can remove the additional courses on the east side, essentially in response to your letter. If you want some kind of filing, I suggested filing an RDA in order to do that. Again, you're removing 2 courses of cement blocks on top of an existing wall. There is no alteration to a wetland resource area, so I think a negative determination would be appropriate. As to what you want to do with respect to 2 additional courses on the north side, I mean, do you really want an after-the-fact notice of intent to add 2 additional courses of brick on top of an existing wall? I mean, is that a good use of anyone's time and money?
I'm trying to follow. Where are you referencing 2 courses of brick?
So,
The north side.
You can see it on the north side.
Oh, on the north side, yes.
Correct. So you can see.
So in this diagram here, you're making reference to 2 courses of
That's correct.
bricks added after the certificate of compliance.
Well, I don't know what the word is. So the wall is six courses tall. You can see that there, that's the original paint. And on top of that, they added 2 additional. And obviously, the mason added, whatever was damaged of that 6th row, but it was 6 tall originally. It's now 8 tall.
Okay. But there's 2 other sides of the house that they added
No,
rows of
two sides, the
three.
east side, 2 sides.
There's 3 that were added.
If you might remember, on the south side, that's the way it was. So they damaged the wall when they did the emergency, the fire department, whatnot, and that was rebuilt to the existing height. So the only the only places where it's added is on the north side and the east side. So again, we're prepared to work with the commission. We don't want that wall as high as it is at essentially the beach side of the house, and we'd like to tear it down. We can do it either in response to your letter, which we'll treat as an enforcement order, which is perfectly appropriate. If you want, I think it's an RDA in order to do that. And then the real question is I think the additional 2 courses on the north side meet your performance standard. And do you really want an after-the-fact notice of intent to maintain 2 additional courses on an existing wall?
I do have a question.
Yes.
If in the opinion of you all that this was all done above board and this was being replaced, why was this done all after the certificate of compliance?
Because originally, I was supposed to have the mason in April, and the mason did not come until October. That's the only reason why. Believe me, I wanted him, because it looked so bad this summer. It looked like somebody the whole, around the house was, paint was chipping, and I wanted to get it all repaired and pointed, and he was originally supposed to come in April. So my builder, who gave me his masonry that they used, said he couldn't come out until October. So that's the only reason why it was done in October.
And the mason was supposed to only restore what was existing, and without permission, went up 2 additional courses on those 2 sides. So we're admitting to that.
And on the ocean side.
That's right. I mean, as the property owner, the applicants are responsible for what their contractors do, but the contractor was not authorized to do that work, only to repair the existing walls to the existing heights.
But is the request for the certificate of compliance saying, gee, we've completed this project, we're done with it, and this is, you approved it, we're through, we're going away, and then someone comes back in and adds quite a bit that could impact stormwater impacts to other properties?
The only word, okay.
Well, so we're not arguing that the COC bars us from having to address these
So I
issues.
think they're saying that they did that. I mean, I hear what you're saying, what Lisa's saying. They got a certificate of compliance and then proceeded beyond that piece. To Adam's point, they're gonna remove this piece, some of the block that's in the front that would have that adverse impact.
Correct, it's a parallel.
These other walls were already there, but they made them a little bit higher. And
in one instance, just on the north side.
so the question is, does that have any serious impact? I mean, they're not gonna take them all down, Pat. They're gonna go back to...
We are taking a lot down on the ocean. It has to be on the ocean side, because I get it. I mean, when I saw that, I mean, my wife hasn't seen it, she would have a heart attack. So I didn't want to take pictures of it. That's how bad it was. So it has to be down on the ocean, because we understand the flow has to go underneath the house.
And that's this picture, right?
Absolutely.
So how far down is that going?
We have to go down, we're gonna go down to basically...
Yeah, but this is as well.
Yes, it is.
And so it looks to me like they added 2 courses of blocks.
2, but then it goes up to 4 in the front. So there's gonna have to, some of it's gonna have to taper off. Let me show you, you see, in front of the house here, you've got 1, 2, 3 courses that are going across, but then we're gonna have to go down and do more than 3, we're gonna have to go 4, because what he did was he butted up to it, which he shouldn't have done.
No, you need to water up both.
Absolutely. So what he did was he only made enough, almost like where a dog can't even go underneath it, and it's scary. I mean, that's why don't worry, we're on it, you know, so.
My dog tried to go underneath it.
Oh, did it? It couldn't work? No, I know. So that has to get done, and that's why we kind of count my blessings, hopefully that there's no more storms or anything like that, so we can get this addressed. And when I called the mason, and actually I was telling Pat when he came up there originally, I wanted to get him out right away before the money goes too far, and then he's like, I can't come back out, or now we start charging additional funding because it was his mistake. So, again, you'll see it's 4 in front of the deck, over, and then there's that opening, and then it's just gonna be, it's gotta be enough just to kind of flow over, so the whole thing's gonna be able to flow.
Like a 7. It was like a 7. Where we're going with this?
I guess my own singular opinion is, I'm glad you're here and responding to the enforcement order. It absolutely has to come out in the front.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit ambivalent about the side, and I guess primarily because we get so many things like this, and we really are trying to be consistent, and normally we would go ahead and require a filing, and then decide if it really has to come out or not. I guess that's where my ambivalence comes from. But I'm very appreciative that you're in and being responsive.
If you look at the south wall, south face wall, there's a new build going in about 10 feet off of this wall now. And they've expressed concerns, how is this gonna impact me? There's a wall up right beside my house. This is gonna be channeling.
Where is this now?
That's on the south.
And who's saying this?
There's a new house going in right next door.
Which is the Gibsons, or Gibbs, are you talking, well, because if they're gonna be the same people that are gonna build, which I believe they will, I'm surprised that they would say anything, because they knew that wall was that size.
I've never spoken to the property owner.
Then you need to talk to the property owner, Pat.
Well, I spoke to someone who's gonna be working in this lot, and they said, "Gee, we have a wall next door, is this gonna impact us for stormwater?"
But the wall was there.
The wall was there, and we did agree to leave it, but not expand it.
When you do a new permit and you go by the new regulations, you're on pilings, things change.
I know, but...
Or what's been approved in the plan. I mean, if it's approved in...
But we approved that to remain, that wall to...
Here's the plan of record. You can see the existing walls. I mean, there's no note to take them out, and in fact, The only discussion of the walls are going to remain. So I don't think there's any question that they were intended to.
Did we have a conversation about adding on to what was
We
left
didn't,
behind?
we didn't add, I'm sorry, so the point is, we didn't add on, it was that height originally, and he just rebuilt it at that height. So there's no additional material, it was rebuilt.
Had that been in the permit application, that could have been reviewed at the time. People could have said, yep, DEP would have said, we're not good with it.
It was discussed, you have the meeting minutes, it was discussed, leave the existing walls. The only comment was Penny's comment, I have no problem with the walls.
That, and I wasn't talking.
Right.
That wall.
Right.
Right.
There's a difference between leaving the existing wall and adding to the existing wall. Those are two very different statements. Leaving an existing wall and adding to an existing wall.
I'm sorry, so
Correct?
maybe there's a misunderstanding. Again, this is the south side. This was damaged and rebuilt to the exact same height that it was previously.
When we all went on the site,
It wasn't.
that didn't exist.
Well, I assume it was damaged.
Well, this must have existed, this white.
Right.
Yes, this existed. There was no conversation about adding to it. I was under the impression that this was going to stay, the existing wall was going to stay, then there was no talk about adding to an existing wall. There was no talk about, this was all open, adding to here. There was no discussion. I crawled under this house. I took pictures under the house. And there weren't all these different walls. There was little pieces and sections further towards the ocean, but not like this.
But that's the wall that we're talking about that needs to come down, which is that wall.
We're gonna redo
That's
that
that's the one that we need to redo and address immediately. That's the one we're talking about.
And again, if I might, because they're perpendicular, not parallel, there's no significance from a regulatory point of view. I mean, they existed. Whether that wall is 4.5 feet or 6 feet, it's going to function the same. Water on one side is going to go perpendicular to the beach. Water is going to go underneath the house, and it's going to continue to go. That's the most likely path of stormwater through there.
I think 4 feet and 6 feet make a huge difference on Hummerock.
I'm not an engineer, and if you'd like to hear that from an engineer, we certainly can provide it, but that's my experience. There's a difference between no structure and structure. I get that. It's an existing structure that the homeowner isn't allowed to restore after a casualty.
All right. What do we,
I'll stick with what I said. I'm delighted they're here. I think for the sake of consistency, we need an after-the-fact filing. I don't know that I disagree with what Adam said, but I think we need an after-the-fact filing and then figure out what to do with the additions on the north side.
I don't agree with what's been stated here. The south side wall in the front by the driveway where the septic is, yes, it was high. But from here back, it was sand level. It did not go up above the sand. The tall walls were where the septic is. It was like a little cell or something in there.
You know what?
Excuse me.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm talking.
Okay, all right.
I remember because we had the patio, we walked across here. When we're facing from the beach, the patio was gonna stay. I remember real good.
Would go into the.
We walked across this grass area because they wanted to keep the grass area.
You understand?
And that was level with that wall.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
That's
Well,
exactly
it
right.
sure isn't level now. I'm telling you now.
That's not the patio area, Penny.
Thank you.
Wait a minute,
That is not the patio area.
This wall goes to the beach, goes to the seawall.
No,
Yes.
No, that's what I'm trying to say to you.
Where is this wall?
it's from the house backwards, Penny. Let me see
It goes in L. That's what I was trying to explain to you. You're right. That wall's still the same. I didn't build that wall up. That wall's still the same that matches the sand.
front?
Correct.
I'm assuming it's,
No, absolutely not. That's what I was trying, and I don't mean to interrupt you, I'm
All
sorry.
right.
You were absolutely right. It goes in an L, so the way it was sat on that dune.
so in front, where this patio is, it's level with the sand going towards the south.
Correct. The only where it's not leveled is where we have to bring it down, that's against the house, where...
Yes, I know that,
Right.
because
Right.
when we were out there, you had a
Right.
nice hole under the house.
Correct, right.
The pilings were there.
Right.
But across the front, the wall did not go above
Correct.
the level of the land.
It actually had, it had a fence, a metal fence that kept it,
Yeah.
and that's still there as
Well,
well.
but if you go into the south, so you're telling me that this is at the, this
it's
is where the
closed.
driveway is and the septic.
Correct, right.
And,
That's on the neighbor's side, because...
all right, I understand, and then
Enforcement
it
order.
stops here and goes low.
Correct.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, it does that well.
Yeah,
they can
no,
do it
no,
after the
I
fact
thought this
file.
was going all the way.
Yeah.
And that's what
I
I'm
actually
trying
think you're,
to
I actually
bring.
think you're
No, we are agreeing, but that's what we're
No,
trying to do.
correct.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to explain to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm not enmeshed in this as much as I am, as the rest of you are, but I think that we could get this done, get the issues corrected under the current enforcement order. We get it down to where it should have been, the 2 courses, and then we move on. I don't see any upside to beating this any further.
Lisa?
I have nothing more to say.
Yeah, I think I agree with Rich as far as something needs to be filed and to do additional work. And if there's any doubt as to what should be filed, I'd be glad to make a call to DEP and see what they recommend.
So,
It's their wetland
the
protection
suggestion
act.
is to have an after-the-fact RDA?
I'll ask DEP, see what they say.
Can we do it with an NOI?
Well, NOI is gonna be more extensive
Yeah.
if they could do an RDA.
RDA, yep.
Again, I don't want to kill them.
Already killed.
We certainly can do,
Fine.
we can do an RDA. We'll do an RDA requesting the ability to remove the additional courses on the east side. And, I guess we're asking for permission to retain the additional 2 courses on the north side, which were built on the existing wall.
Sure.
And so at least you have something in your file,
Yep.
so that if someone asks you about it later, again, I think they're both negative determinations because there's no work actually on a resource area. And we're happy to do that. That's
If you wanna
good.
double check with DEP on that, just be sure that we're okay with an RDA.
I mean, they can file it, whatever you recommend.
Right, well, an RDA is either gonna be negative or positive,
Right.
so.
Right, I don't want to go through the trouble of submitting an RDA to have the commission come back and say, well, it's really a positive determination, therefore we need a notice of intent. I mean, the only additional, again, I think the removal work can be done if we treat your letter as an enforcement order.
Right.
Happy to do an RDA to do that. So the only thing we're asking for permission for is the additional 2 courses on the north side. I know.
Courses on the south side.
No, sir. And it's a restoration of existing.
All that, well, it wasn't on the approved plan, so.
It is shown on the approved plan.
It is on there.
This, to this height?
No,
This is the existing condition. We can show
not all
you,
the way.
The existing.
we can show you
Do we have any,
photographs.
I think.
I don't see anything in writing that said you could add to the existing wall that was in place.
They're saying that they didn't add, that, I mean, if you look at that plan, it looks
They
to me
did
like
add.
there's 4 more.
The white was there, we said that can stay.
Right.
That's exactly what we said, the
Right.
white can.
But what
stay.
they're saying is that the wall was that high before. You gotta show us something that
I'm happy to show you, we have photographs to show you what
I've got
the
all
size
the
is.
pictures.
But they didn't ask to build to that
You have
level.
photographs of all 4 sides? That would
So
be
you'd have-
terrific.
I think it does.
I'll run in my car right now and get you those. I'm no problem doing
you
that
know what,
if you want. I mean, if you want to give me the time, I'll go get
I mean,
it. And I'll give it to you. This is overdoing it.
I'm looking at the minutes, And I believe that we said that they could put back what they had before. I believe that was...
Better read them again.
Where are the minutes?
You can leave what's there with what it was.
I have all of the minutes and I reviewed them. That was the only mention of the walls.
I mean, we walked this with Carmen, she was the engineer. We went
Yes,
step by
were you
step.
here?
That's it. And the wall in the front was to retain the sand that was up there.
I know.
And you've agreed to lower that so the water can flow through. Then we looked at the rest of it, and said, okay, if this has been burned, it can stay here. There was no talk about coming up 4 to 6 feet or whatever above that.
Right.
That wasn't in the permit application. So it would require something to leave it in place. And, you know, you're saying there was something there, maybe an RDA, maybe it would, maybe it'd be a positive RDA, who knows?
It
mean,
could be, because
the
I know
consistency-
DEP, we've asked about other people doing just a short wall on their property.
We wouldn't give them a penny if it was a new project or there was nothing there, we
Yeah.
wouldn't be talking about this.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have done it. The only reason it's here is because the house burned,
I
they had to
understand.
rebuild,
Yeah.
they built this on piles. If they could have built it,
And I agree, the reason it's not black and white is because there was a fire, there was damage in the past, and that's why we're
yeah.
having trouble with this. This would be an absolute denial if it were a new project.
I don't disagree.
You can hear a pin drop in here.
Biting my tongue.
Don't bleed all over the table.
Yes, ma'am.
We had a different age Jim O'Connell thing.
Patio and stairs were allowed to stay.
Wasn't it? We didn't let them leave the existing wall. I believe we are allowing the privacy block wall.
Over by the driveway.
Which is this? So you keep switching back between the driveway and the wall. Well,
There's nothing that says about adding on.
And again, we're in agreement with respect to the 2 additional courses. I think we have a legal right to restore what was damaged. So we're prepared, I guess, we're prepared to submit an RDA. We'll submit an RDA to remove the wall. In that, we'll ask for authority to leave the additional
And give us
horses.
the...
And I'll show you a photograph of that wall to show you how big it was.
Fine.
Hit it.
Okay, we don't have to vote on anything tonight anyways.
No, and so I don't know what, I'm gonna need a couple of weeks to get the RDA to you. It's just been crazily busy, so if that's all right.
Yep.
Good, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Yep. Gentlemen, what are you waiting for?
Get an education.
And then you come to the wrong place.
It's not always this complicated. Sometimes it's worse. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
worse.
actually it is.
All right, what else do we have, Pat?
There's the certificate of compliance, I think, Carol, for 7 Oliver.
Yeah.
There's a few here. There's...
Yeah, the first one, 647, it turns out there was multiple filing up there.
Right.
Septic had built under an RDA, so there was no certificate of compliance.
That's good notice.
But nothing ever took place, I think. Paul Marabito called about.
Wasn't this Eli
He just said
Jordan's
he
house?
wanted to learn.
The end of the cul-de-sac
Right.
off the First Parish.
Yeah.
It's a 3-lot shared driveway.
No, I know what it is.
There's a new septic on the second house in, and then the third house in, it was taken care of under an RDA.
So-
They weren't even looking for a CSC when I talked to them yesterday.
I thought they did need a CSC.
The lawyer called, and then the lawyer emailed, said, I guess we don't need one. And I was gonna call him back, but I haven't had time.
Yeah, Paul Marabito, I think, has more information,
Right.
but he didn't think they needed.
All right, if you find that the stuff is consistent and correct, can you, they what?
They do have an order, but I'm not even sure it was recorded. Maybe it wasn't even recorded, so therefore they don't need a certificate.
Because they didn't.
Because they didn't record it.
Huh.
Well, the order's from a long time ago, it's like,
Oh, I know.
yeah.
It seems to me like we've talked about this project before. I know we
This
have.
was the third
Well,
house.
2 years ago, we did a septic, but it was
Yeah,
RDA.
okay.
The RDA.
All right.
Merritt Woods, did she get that stuff to you?
We decided she didn't need to, actually, because
Oh, all right, so we don't have to
we
worry about
had,
those.
we had some information.
And 7 Oliver?
7 Oliver was his condition, is the okay.
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 Yeah, this was the high, kind of a high house down there.
Okay.
The only thing is they put their firewood out and firewood got floated away in the river flood. So there's firewood all over the street.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Warren?
244 Central.
That's crossed off.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, who else is?
Anything else on enforcements, Pat?
Tilton has been flagged, 392 Douglas, the house.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Brad Holmes flagged it, he's
Saw
gonna
that.
come in with a restoration plan for the buffer area.
Yeah.
Those where all the growth was around the shed and they
Yeah,
cut it down.
I
Yep.
saw the email. from
Oh,
Brad.
yeah, I
That's
saw that he was going to meet with the guy,
Well,
right, yeah.
Mary's Lane, I think, was that on for the 16th? This was the one where,
Yeah, she's
this
coming
is,
in.
that the-
Brooklyn Roll flagged this one.
Yeah, yeah. And then her son went out and did some.
Yeah, did we
ground.
put it on for the 16th, Penny, do you know?
No.
We didn't, okay. You know what?
You want them in on the 16th?
I thought we already put them in, so I can check.
All right, but I'll just write this.
Concord, he's gonna be removing the wall,
Yeah.
so he's gonna come in and file at the same time to remove one wall, and then where the other wall was, he's gonna add planks to that.
And I promised him I'd make myself available to make
He's
sure he
gonna
does it right.
restore the beach grass area.
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
12, Rebecca's gonna file Zero Rear Driftway. This was the walking trail out there near the bus company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got a letter from an attorney that's representing the property owner, Mr. Russo, so we're gonna meet with him next
To
week.
Mr. Loring?
Yes, yes.
Good.
You wanna come?
Sure.
I already got Bill.
I'm going.
Bill
All right, well, that's good, then I don't have to go.
Oh,
So we'll set that
You
up for
think?
next week.
Okay.
What's going on with Humrock Beach? 140. Dodge Road.
George Road with the paving on the street,
Oh.
they were gonna file. You know, I was there yesterday too, I had to ride down looking for those Humrock Beach Road things, and I rode right up to their house, I should have knocked on the door.
I can help you with that.
Yeah.
Good.
Because if it's pervious pavers that are there, that would make it a lot easier.
I think they are.
They might be, I couldn't, by looking at them, they look like they might be, but I told them they have to prove it to us.
Okay. I'm done.
Coastal advisory,
There's been no meeting since the last meeting, and it's 2 weeks away.
met with DPW, good meeting's great. Move on.
I'm meeting with Bill, we're gonna walk the parking lot at each beach.
Did you ever talk to the guy at Branch Street? 17,
The letter came back, the certified letter came back. There's no answer is it Webby, what is the company name? It's not under his name, it's not under Gillespie's name.
Welby?
Welby. There was no answer at that number. So I was out at the site the other day, and there was some young kid banging nails, but it wasn't him. But yeah, he needs to,
I mean,
Greg Morse told him. He knows that he's
given the
got-
other stuff that's gone on here,
Right,
I just think,
right.
wait, so we don't have a way to, well, I guess it wasn't him that filed the, maybe the building department's got a contact number. I mean, if he filled out a building permit for that house,
Right.
he should have had a phone number on that building permit.
Yeah.
Is that about the driveway you're concerned, or what?
No, there's-
Cutting in the buffer.
Yeah.
Oh, the cutting in the buffer, yeah.
And starting without a
Right.
pre-construction, and this is on top of this other site, so,
I know.
And
He's
all
almost
the,
done with it.
all the erosion controls were in good shape, so
Okay,
that's what
yeah.
I expected, to see water running down into this.
yeah,
pond.
no, and I walked around too. I would be interested to find out if Jim DeBarros has any,
Yeah,
Wouldn't that be
I mean,
nice in a sense? that
yeah, but I think they're gonna find that the drain pipe is crushed by the gas company, and maybe with some underlying issues, so.
I mean, that happened at Peggy Beach Road there, too.
But I just wonder, well, we'll
We'll see.
beat that one off.
Yeah, I'll
It's
get in
just
touch with Jim.
unfortunate.
All right,
Did they hire any person yet?
I don't know. Okay.
Devotion swap, or that thing you were gonna mention.
Oh, so devotion, I think what I'd like to do is after that last public meeting, there's been some movement, you've seen the emails, I'm copying you. And I think probably it's a good idea to get back with him, with Mrs. Bartlett for the Damon piece, and a couple of the selectmen. It seemed like Selectman Harris and Karen were most interested in that. Tony Vignani had a talk with Devotion, so maybe we can get that together. It's not gonna wind up on the warrant for this town meeting, but I just as soon keep the thing going.
There'll be a fall town meeting too, because
Yep.
we're gonna have the flood zone. The flood maps came in today. Only the sections that have changed from their 213 draft map. So then there's different sheets of the changes are in. So Neil and Maureen have those.
Okay. And then just, Penny, sometime, maybe we can work with a couple of us. We had that event at the Widows Walk. Rec Department was really interested in starting to set up some walks. And I think it would be a good way to get people out into the Bates Lane, and then as the other areas develop. But I
excellent
think if
idea.
people get out there, so we'll have a training program with all the members, and we'll take them all on a walk, and then we can alternate.
It's a great idea. Because I think once people get a certain level of comfort on the trails, then they'll go more often. Right.
Well, I did that with the rec years ago, before.
And they remember that as like it was the most pleasant time in their lives, so maybe.
They keep asking me to do it.
I know.
Come on, Penny.
A walk with you was one of the most pleasant things in their life.
You
Is
won't
that what
see
you
any
said?
wildlife.
Wow.
No, you don't see any.
You guys are brutal.
Listen,
It's time to ask for an adjournment.
Excuse me, is that a crow? No, that's Penny.
No, I'm not done yet. I make the motion that we accept the minutes, Carol, of January 4th, that Frank rudely said I couldn't do.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Yeah, all. We're abbreviating.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of January 13th.
Those were exceptional.
That's the way I remember them too.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I did read them. Stop
I
it,
make
Bill.
a motion that we adjourn. Go home.
Thank you very much,
Aye.
Carol, for those.
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for your help, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.